Today, I found out that my entire marriage is a lie, as I found out that he cheated on his ex-wife with me, putting me in a situation that has made me feel completely insane because right now, I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. Okay, honestly, I don't even know why I'm writing this here. Maybe it's to make this whole situation process in my head, but honestly, I'm not sure. To start things off, me and my husband have been together for 6.5 years and married for 2. Our whole relationship has been a dream, so much so that it's felt like a fairy tale. My husband works in tech and makes a 6-figure salary, so he's taking care of me for our entire relationship. Vacations, designer clothing, expensive jewelry, etc. We've never had any relationship-ending problems. Of course, we've had disagreements in the past about finances and work, just typical couple stuff, but there was nothing wrong enough to clue me in to what was actually going on. My husband, I'll call him Adam for the sake of the story, first met me at a bar and Adam was really drunk, like way too drunk to be alone. And at the time, I was worried about him and I even offered to get him an Uber ride home. I took care of him until the ride arrived, but when I got back home, I had realized that Adam's wallet was in my bag, and I figured he must have accidentally dropped it in when I was helping him out to the car. The next time we met, he was sober and super apologetic. We ended up exchanging numbers and our relationship blossomed from there. We now live together and we spend nearly every holiday together with my family. Like, he's basically an extension of my family. And right now, we are in the middle of packing up our townhouse so we can move into a bigger house to start a family. And it's mostly been me packing up everything as I decided to quit my job to focus on the family side of things. So today, I was packing up Adam's office when I found his old MacBook. Now, even though Adam makes a lot of money, I still consider myself to be very frugal. I never want to spend more money when it can be saved. And a week or two ago, my laptop broke after I spilled a bowl of ramen on it. So I figured that I could just boot up his old MacBook and use it instead. After I finished cleaning up the rest of the office, I plugged in the computer and I started it. And there happened to be tabs open from the last time Adam used it. And even though I probably should have just closed them out, I was curious as to what they were. Well, one of them was Facebook, but it was signed into an account I didn't recognize. It seemed to be Adam's account, but there were like a ton of photos I'd never seen before. Photos of Adam with a blonde woman with a toddler in her arms from a few years back. But most confusingly was a photo of Adam and his mom in New York that was posted last year. For context, Adam tends to travel a lot for work. His mom was tagged in the photo, but when I clicked on the account, it looked nothing like the account that had followed me years back. There were photos and posts from as recently as last year. But then I started to think back. I'd never met Adam's mom before she had passed away, and I hadn't been invited to the funeral either. So with that in mind, why in the world would he ever lie about that? I continued scrolling through the Facebook account, and there were many more photos of the blonde woman and the toddler. All of them together, though, were from like 2 years ago. Once Adam got home, I confronted him with the Facebook accounts. At first, he was defensive, saying that I was being paranoid and that those posts meant nothing. Then it switched to anger, and he screamed at me for invading his privacy. But eventually, he broke down and admitted that he had created a fake account and pretended to be his mom. When I pressed him on why, he admitted the blonde woman was his recently divorced ex-wife, who he had cheated on with me. He confessed that when he turned 30 years old, he felt like he was trapped in his marriage, so he decided to find someone else to be with. So, for the first 4 years of our relationship, I was the other woman. He told me that his mom thought of his ex like a second daughter, so he could never introduce me to her. Well, when he said this, I just grabbed my bag and I left. I went straight to my parents' house and I explained the whole situation, but it still feels surreal. I had never seen that side of Adam before. It was like suddenly a switch had been flipped. To think that the man I've loved and devoted myself to for nearly 7 years was such a backstabbing liar. I'm sort of wondering if the world will ever stop spinning, because right now I feel insane and I seriously just don't know what to do. Holy crap, I can't imagine being with someone only to find out, oh yeah, this entire relationship is a sham. You're the person I cheated on my wife with. Congratulations, this sucks, doesn't it? Like, bro, what are we talking about right now? This is awful. Like, I don't blame the original poster for getting out of there and being like, okay, I gotta bounce and go somewhere else. This guy is crazy and built a house of cards that was bound to fail. So yeah, this entire situation sucks and I'm so sorry that you went through that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled friend dropped her son off at my place for me to babysit him for literally 20 minutes, as she said she was going to run to the store and back real quick and then she'll be right back immediately. But instead, what really happened is she was gone for hours at a time, leaving me panicking, wondering where she is, and forcing me to call her emergency contact just to figure out what's actually going on. So now my friend is saying that I embarrassed her and that I overreacted, even though she left me high and dry. Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do and I'm very pissed off. Here's how it happened. Okay, to start things off, my friend, who I will call Kayla, asked if I could watch her 6-year-old son for like 20 minutes while she ran into a store near my place. Now, I said yes because I've known her for years and I've watched him before. I mean, her son is a good kid. So she showed up, she dropped him off with his tablet and a snack and said that she would be right back. Well, about 40 minutes later, I texted her a simple, "Hey, is everything okay?" But I got no reply. An hour then passes by, so I call her, but it goes straight to voicemail. I then start getting that hot panic feeling because I'm not his parent and I don't know what's going on. In fact, her son even starts asking when mom is coming back, and I'm trying to just keep it light by saying, "Oh, she'll be back soon, buddy," while I'm also refreshing my phone like a maniac. I texted again and then again, but still I got nothing. At the 2-hour mark, I'm honestly scared that something happened, but I'm also pissed off because this is definitely not 20 minutes anymore. I also had plans later and I'd basically been volunteered into childcare with no end time. Well, I finally looked at the little information card she left in her bag, and this was basically like an emergency contact and the pediatrician, stuff like that, just some phone numbers that I might need to know. And it's here that I found the emergency contact, her older sister. Now, I didn't call to get her in trouble. I called because I didn't know if Kayla was in like a car accident or had passed out or what. Like literally, I didn't know what was going on. Her sister answered immediately and sounded really confused. Then she said, "Wait, she told you 20 minutes?" Well, apparently Kayla had texted her earlier that she was going to look at a car with a guy that she's been seeing and might be out for a while. So she used me as a free babysitter so that she could go do this and just chose not to tell me. Her sister drove over and picked the kid up, and she was polite, but I could tell that she was annoyed too. Well, about 30 minutes after that, Kayla finally calls me furious, saying that I embarrassed her and I made her look like a bad mom. She said her phone died and she had lost track of time, but I asked her why she didn't like plug it in somewhere, or why she didn't just say that she needed a couple of hours. She then said that because I would have said no, and she really needed this. She also said I had no right to involve her family, and now her sister is judging her. I then told her that I'm not a drop-off zone and I'm not comfortable being lied to about someone's kid. And now she's telling mutual friends that I overreacted and that I'm being dramatic for calling her sister instead of just waiting. So seriously, am I the jerk for calling the emergency contact when she literally disappeared? What should I do here? Because I honestly just don't know what to do. Bro, this friend of yours is a piece of garbage. Kayla sucks in this story. She literally dropped your kid off and said, "Okay, I'll be back in 20 minutes," and then leaves for like 2 hours. Like, bro, what are you talking about? Her phone didn't die. She literally did this on purpose. She clearly admits it, like, "Oh, you would have said no if I said I needed like a few hours. I really needed this, so you're just gonna have to deal with it." Like, holy crap, imagine if you couldn't get a hold of the older sister. The next stop would have been like Child Protective Services. Like, what's going on right now? So no, of course you're not the jerk. You did the right thing here. Kayla is so selfish for acting the way she did, and honestly, this is not something that you should have had to deal with. Am I the jerk for telling my family that they need to get over the fact that my father will be walking me down the aisle on my wedding day? Because now they're saying that unless I uninvite my father to my wedding, they will not be showing up, putting me in a really weird situation because right now I don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. So my father was absent for most of my childhood. I'm the second oldest and he split when I was around 7 years old. I also have 3 older siblings, my older brother, my younger brother, and my youngest sister. Growing up, everyone in the family hated him, and that includes me, but especially my mother and my youngest sister. My mother was not the best parent. She would be very verbally cruel towards us, and my trust in her is also gone due to her habit of lying. My father reached out to me when I was 18 years old to get coffee, and it's here that he apologized to me and wanted to start fresh. I was hesitant at the beginning, but I decided to forgive him and move on. He reached out to the other kids when they turned 18, and they just wanted nothing to do with him. I mean, that is their choice and right to do so. He did explain, however, why he left my mother, and I confirmed it with her. Fast forward and I'm now 28 years old, and I don't regret it at all. He has been a huge help and support to me over the years. My relationship with my mother has been getting worse over the years though, especially since she hates my husband-to-be. Now this is where the real problem comes into play. I invited my dad to walk me down the aisle on my wedding day. I want him at my wedding and to be a part of it. And my God, my siblings and my mom are pissed off at me. They told me that if I do this, they will not come to my wedding. They want him uninvited from the wedding, and apparently my mom should be the one to walk me down instead of my dad. But you know what? I told them no. This then resulted in an argument, but I just told them straight up they need to get over it, and no, I'm not going to rescind my invitation. When I said that, they said, okay, well, we're not going to come to your wedding. To which I told them, okay, that's fine, whatever. So now it kind of leaves me scratching my head. Am I at fault here? Like, am I the jerk in this situation? Because I don't know what to do. Okay, I really like this story for a few reasons, but the biggest one for me is that sometimes you really can make amends. You really can forgive others of like bad things they've done to you, and there's always room to like choose to move forward and try to have some kind of relationship again. Like, it literally is possible, and I think the original poster is a fantastic example of that. They chose to forgive their father and say, look, you did some bad stuff in the past, but I accept your apology, and yes, let's try to move forward and have a fresh start. And you know what? For the past 10 years, that's exactly what they did. They moved forward, they developed a new relationship with one another, and that, in my opinion, is a great thing. Like, this is the way it should be. You should be able to forgive others and move on with your life. But what's baffling to me is the fact that your mom and your siblings are like, oh, you cannot have him at your wedding. Mom's gonna walk you down the aisle, not him. When it's like, no, that's not how this is gonna work. You're more than welcome to like not forgive him, but this is the original poster's wedding. They can choose who they want to walk them down the aisle, and they don't have to bend to your will just because you're upset about this. So no, I don't think you're the jerk here. I think you're a good example of forgiving others and choosing to move forward with your life instead of holding onto a grudge like your mom and your siblings. Am I the jerk for not enjoying the birthday gifts my friend got me that literally mocked my dead mother? Because right now she's saying that I need to lighten up and learn how to joke about this, even though my mom just passed away 8 months ago. Because right now I'm devastated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what's happening. I'm a 20-year-old female, and to get right to the point, I lost my mother about 8 months ago very suddenly. I've experienced a wave of emotion as I had a weird relationship with my mother and a lot of unsaid things. And I didn't even get to say goodbye to her, which really pains me every single day. I have a large group of friends, some from high school and some from university, who have all been supporting me tremendously. One specific friend, who I will call Caroline for the sake of the story, is someone I met at university. I would not consider her my best friend, but she has been such an amazing support to me throughout this whole situation with my mom. She always told me I could come to her for anything and would even pull me aside during social events to make sure I was doing okay. Yesterday, my birthday, Caroline and a group of my other friends came over unannounced with party decorations, snacks, and even a cake. After the emotional morning that I had just had, all the way to the dread that I had for having my birthday coming up, this really made me cry. I felt so seen and loved in this moment. But this lasted up until my friends brought gifts that they had bought. I opened up 2 gifts before opening Caroline's. It was a large box, and I opened it with a huge smile on my face, and my friends all looked excited for me to see what was inside. But to my shock, there was a mug and a hoodie, and both of them had a large, bold font that said motherless behavior. And when I saw this, I was in so much shock that I just excused myself. I ended up calling it a night, and they all left, with Caroline muttering it was supposed to be funny as she passed by me to leave. This morning, I woke up with text messages from some of my friends at the party reassuring me that Caroline had no ill intent, and then I saw Caroline message me. The message was lengthy, including many messages saying things like, "It was of good intent. You embarrassed me. I was trying to lighten the situation." One message in particular that Caroline sent had really gotten to me. She said in this message, "After 8 months, you really should be able to accept your mom's death and joke about it. You're self-sabotaging from holding on, and it's ruining your friendships." When I read this, I felt so sick. And this statement is really just making me wonder if I truly am the jerk and if I should be over my mom's death. So seriously, help me out here. Am I at fault in this situation? Am I the jerk for excusing myself and asking everyone to leave? What should I do? Because honestly, I don't know where I should go with this. Holy crap, your friend Caroline's an idiot. For her to sit there and be like, "Oh, it's been 8 months, you should be able to joke about your mom dying." That is no joking manner. Like, what are you doing? That is the most callous cop-out I've ever heard in my life too, by the way. Like, what were those gifts about, dude? That is not something you joke about so soon. It's so cruel and just unnecessary. It just drives in the point that, yeah, your mom is gone, and not only that, but also your friends are gonna make fun of that point. So no, this was not meant with good intent. This was not meant as some kind of joke either. It was meant as a way of punching down at someone who is suffering. So in my opinion, I think the woman named Caroline in this story is a terrible person. She is not your real friend, and if I was in your shoes, I would never forgive her for this. Because this is unacceptable and there is no good excuse. Did I overreact by kicking my sister-in-law out of my house after she literally tried to kick my dogs by blaming them for something they probably didn't even do? Because right now I'm still pissed off about this and I just don't know if I'm in the right. Here's what happened. Okay, you might all leave this post thinking that I'm the jerk, and honestly that's okay. But But just to give some context from the very start, my younger brother and sister-in-law and their 3-year-old have been staying with me for a couple of weeks. Their house is under major repairs after a water leak. Think no windows, gutted walls, water is turned off, so there's no bathrooms or kitchen, meaning that it's practically unlivable. It's really bad, and I truly do feel awful for them and for their little one. When my brother asked if they could stay with me, probably for about a month, I reluctantly agreed. I love my brother, don't get me wrong, but I live a peaceful life of books, music, walks, and playtime with my dogs, personal space, and a lot of quiet, reflective time to myself to do whatever suits me. And I am not a kid person at all. I honestly can't stand kids, but it was only for a month and it's my brother, so I agreed. But then it all went south very quickly. For starters, I have dogs. Now, I'm not the perfect dog owner for sure, but they don't bark, they don't jump, and they've even been trained to greet people by sitting and waiting for someone to pat them on the head. And most of the time, they just lay out on the sun deck and snooze, or I take them out to the yard and we play ball. I also clean up their potty breaks in the yard or out walking or hiking. They're also gated out of the kitchen and dining room at meal times because obviously dogs don't really belong where people are eating. But they don't mind. They don't bark or storm the gate. They just go lay down as they've been taught to do so. But also they're dogs. They like to play and to be close to people. And they of course have hair. Well, my sister-in-law simply couldn't cope. Every single day was endless complaints, tears, tirades, and tantrums, and her basically begging me to lock my dogs up while her and her kid were there. She would be screaming at my dogs, stomping her feet like a literal child, and yelling at my brother about the dogs, the hair, the toys, the food, literally anything. She would also let her kid eat in my living room, which sent me cringing and reeling, sending my brain into a spiral as I said to myself, oh my gosh, please do not touch anything. But even still, I said nothing. I was trying to be patient. He is just a little kid, and despite my feelings towards kids, they don't deserve to be mistreated. I would never do that, especially at an age where they are so impressionable and don't understand why adults can be unkind. To be completely fair, I eat in my living room occasionally. Maybe I'm having pizza and a movie night or whatever, but I'm not a 3-year-old with dirty hands and zero boundaries. I expect respect and appreciation for other people's things, or at least how messy a peanut butter and jelly sandwich can be. Now, it wasn't just the eating on my couch. Kids do a lot of kids things that make me cringe every day. And my god, the smell was so bad. Seriously though, like why do they smell? What even is that smell? And they cry and listen to cartoons so loud I can hear it from my office over my music. I also hate having to be the bad guy in my own home. And this is all before my Teams or Zoom meetings, when I would have to ask in my own home for people to be quiet. Not that we didn't have a few fun chats, with a 3-year-old, or we would laugh or anything like that, because guess what? We totally did. But despite that, I still tried to be as kind and patient as I ever could be. But then it finally happened, the moment that literally changed everything for me, and I could not stand having this woman and her child in my house any longer. I was in my office getting some work done for the morning, and my dogs were playing in the living room. I could hear them, but I honestly thought nothing of it. I mean, they play all the time. The kid was also in the living room watching something annoying and way too loud on TV. I don't know where my sister-in-law was, honestly. Maybe folding their laundry, I think, and my brother was definitely at work. Well, it's at this point I hear a thump and a blood-curdling scream of a toddler. The kind that reminds me why I can't stand kids. Literal ear piercing. Like this is some natural birth control for me. And it's a total sensory nightmare. Every nerve in my body simply cannot stand it. Like I hate how this makes me feel. Once this happened, my sister-in-law started screaming. Then I hear the sound of scattering paws of the wood floor, with the dogs running towards my office. I then open the door and step out to see her chasing them down the hallway, trying to kick and hit them. With her kid in one arm, she is swinging her free arm at my dogs, randomly trying to kick them, all with tears just running down her face. Now for reference, my dogs have never been kicked before, or even someone pretending to kick them, and they've definitely never been hit. Also, my dogs live here. She does not. It was at this moment I had simply had enough. I put the dogs away in their beds in my office with a treat, and I went back out the hallway and I told her to pack up, get out, because you are absolutely done here. Her response was to ask me if I was joking and complained that my dogs knocked her kid off the couch. I felt bad and I asked her kid if anything was broken or bleeding, but guess what? No, nothing was bleeding and nothing was broken. So it's like, okay, you're fine, so please stop screaming. I then followed her through the whole house, making sure she packed up everything. She asked if she could stay until my brother got off work, even though she was already texting him, making me the bad guy, I'm sure, but I told her no, take your bags and your child and get out. I then felt a little bit bad because it's only like 10 degrees in Minnesota right now, so I let them sit in the kitchen behind the baby gate until my brother could come and get them, and thankfully he left work early. Well, now my brother is pissed off at me for kicking them out, and he's pissed off at his wife because now he has to pay for a place for them to stay, and he's the only one who works. She's trying to victimize herself by saying that the dogs attacked her child and that I'm an awful, family-hating, old, mean jerk. She tried to garner sympathy from my parents, who also told her off, and my other sister and brother-in-law, who already think she's crazy and a freeloader. My older brother was going to let them stay there until he found out what she did, and then posted in the family group chat that he had changed his mind because he doesn't want her kicking his dogs. But according to her and my younger brother, I freaked out, overreacted, and threw my family out in favor of my dogs. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do to try and make this right. Okay, you are not at fault here. You did not overreact. If I found out that anybody's trying to kick my dog in my own home, then yeah, I'm gonna boot them out of my house as well. That is crazy behavior and is completely uncalled for. There's no excuse for that. If you're gonna be in someone else's home, especially under their good grace and acceptance of you being there, then guess what? You gotta put up with whatever's in front of you. That means if they have dogs, you need to learn to live with it. Or at least take the steps to properly watch your kid and not let these dogs be around it if you're that worried about it. What a moron. Even if the dogs did somehow make the kid fall over, I guarantee you it's probably because that kid was doing stuff it shouldn't do, and not because the dog suddenly attacked the kid out of nowhere. So no, you didn't overreact. I would absolutely kick this lady out of the house as well, because what she did is completely unacceptable. An entitled old couple try to break into my house and look around after they see the for sale sign sitting on our front lawn. But even though I told them that I will call the police if they ever try that again, they claim that because I had a for sale sign on my yard, they had every right to go into our house and look around whenever they want. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened in early 2020, right before the pandemic shut everything down. I was still in high school at the time, walking back home from the bus stop one afternoon after school. I live with my grandparents, and they had decided to downsize and put their old house up for sale. So there was one of those for sale signs in the yard with a name and number for the realtor. I decide to walk up to the house, and then I see this elderly couple there. The man was trying to open the front door, while the woman was attempting to look through this bay window that we had overlooking the driveway. She was on her tiptoes trying to peek through the gap at the top of the window shade. So naturally, I went and asked them what they were doing. They said they were just looking at the house because it was for sale. Because apparently, I guess a home being for sale somehow entitles them to try and break in, even while there are still people living there. They asked me if I lived there and started asking me all sorts of questions that I couldn't or even just didn't want to answer, such as the exact square footage of the house, as well as where my bedroom was, before asking how to get into the backyard. And they seemed awfully confused when I asked them to leave. It was like they thought they had a right to be there, as if I had not just watched them try to break in. Later that week, they came back, but this time I was already home. My bedroom window overlooked the street in front of the house, and I was on my bed doing something, and I looked up to see the same old couple staring at me through my window. They then smiled at me when I looked up, almost like they were waiting for it or something like that. I had no idea how long it had been there, but it was really creepy. I again asked them what they were doing, and I asked them to leave again, but they instead declared that they were just looking at the house, that the house was for sale, and that they wanted to look around. And if we didn't want people looking at the house, then we shouldn't have put up the for sale sign out front. Well, I then said I'm going to call the police if they don't leave. A few days later, my grandparents caught them trying to get into the backyard. The wife had found the latch on the other side and was reaching over the fence, undoing it so that she could walk right into the backyard. It usually had a padlock, but it wasn't at that moment because my grandparents were out there, so naturally they just got caught straight away. They once again used the same excuse of the house being for sale. So my grandparents told them that they should have contacted their realtor if they really were interested in seeing the house. They then began to play dumb and said that they didn't know who the realtor was when her name and phone number were on the for sale sign that they literally kept going on and on about. They also could have, I don't know, maybe knocked on the door instead of trying to let themselves in the front door or into the backyard. My grandparents told them that if they ever saw them again, they would call the police, and that my grandparents and the realtor would make sure that they never are allowed to see the inside of the house. Well, after that, we never saw them again. I guess they took my grandparents seriously when they said they're gonna call the cops. But honestly, what was their deal? I've never been in the market for a house, but last I heard, a house being for sale doesn't give you the right to just let yourself inside at any time, especially when the owner still lives there. My grandparents love critiquing houses that are for sale and regularly go to the open houses in our area, even though they're never planning on buying another home. I wonder if that couple was maybe the same, but just convinced themselves that they were entitled to let themselves into any building that was up for sale, regardless of whoever might be living there. But I'm really glad we never saw them again, because that experience was incredibly creepy. Yeah, that is not the way you go about trying to inspect a house you want to buy. The people in this story literally were still living living there. Even just looking at the house and the clear activity all around them, they should be able to obviously come to the conclusion that yes, somebody lives there and that I need permission to go into the house. You can't just walk up and be like, oh yeah, your house is for sale. That means we can go in whenever we want, because that's an insane assumption and it's definitely not the way that things actually work. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my fiance's mom that she's clueless and needs to mind her own business when it comes to my family? Because the way she's talking right now has really upset me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 27-year-old male, and I'm engaged to a woman who we will call Sierra, and we're having trouble with her mom, who we will call May. I get along fine with Sierra's family for the most part, even May typically, but she has always been a little intrusive into my family life and wanting to know details that are really none of her business. I don't have a close family or a family at all, really. My mom was a train wreck of a person who destroyed her life when she was previously married by cheating and getting involved with some shady guys, which ended her marriage and caused tension with her 2 kids from her ex-husband. She ended up getting pregnant with me, and there were 3 guys who could have been the father, and none were happy with the situation that she made. When my father was confirmed, she chose another guy instead, and my father completely left the picture. My mom ended up losing custody of me when I was 3 or 4 because she wasn't taking care of me, she was letting her boyfriend mistreat me, and they were involved in criminal activities that she had a long history of by that point. Her other children's father was given sole custody of them, and he was asked by a social worker to take me as well. He initially said no, but then someone who I'm not sure who it was told him that his kids would hate me forever if he left me to the system. So he took me in and let me live with them until I turned 18 years old. But his kids didn't want me, and he made sure of it. So while I had a family in the sense that I grew up with other people in the same house, nobody actually wanted me there, and it was made very clear to me by my mother's own children that I wasn't their sibling, and they didn't hate their dad for not taking me because they just didn't want me. My father wasn't hostile to me exactly, but he was cold, and he made it very clear that I was not his kid. By the time I turned 17 years old, I was on my own because he realized his kids had never loved me, and I was dropped with the knowledge that nobody would come for him for leaving me at 17 when I was already working. I have nothing to do with them or my mother or my father, or even the extended family. When it comes to Sierra, she's from a very complicated blended family. May appears to have a very defensive view of blended families, and being somewhat aware of my past, she has pressured me to reach out and invite my supposed family to my wedding, and to her, my family means the man who raised me and his kids. Sierra has told her that won't be happening, and we actually stopped seeing her for a period of time, all because of her insistence on bringing it up all the time. May finally decided to tell me that I owe her the whole story, and that she'll be able to help me make amends with my family because that's what's best for everybody. I told her she was so clueless if she thought things would work out that way, and I told her that she needs to mind her own business because I don't owe her my whole background. Sierra then kicked May out, but not before May told me that I had spoken to her harshly when all she said she was doing was trying to help. So am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? No, you're definitely not the jerk, because it not only sounds like this is a very sensitive and private issue, but also this is most definitely not May's business. She literally has no business getting involved in this. For starters, she is not entitled to your information about your life, but also, even if she did understand where you're coming from, she has no right to try and carry the burden of like making amends with your family, because what you described sounds awful. You literally had nobody growing up, and they literally just dropped you off on the curb when you're like, what, 18, 17 years old? That's an awful situation, and it probably still hurts even to this day. So no, you are definitely not the jerk for telling May to get lost. Her entitled attitude is completely unnecessary, and these kinds of intrusive questions are completely unacceptable. Did I overreact for quitting a job after I found out that my coworker makes more than me simply because she has kids? Because right now, as I look back on it, I worry that I might have made the wrong decision. Here's what happened. So this happened a few years ago in 2018, and I had just graduated high school. I was working part-time at a music store making $10 an hour. I had already been there for about a year, and they hired this new woman who I basically had to show how to do everything in the store, from scanning in music and instruments and accessories, all the way to showing her how the register worked. One day, I saw the new girl had left her pay stub on the counter, so I decided to take a look, and it was then that I saw she was getting paid $11.50 an hour, which is a whole $1.50 more than me. I decided to bring it up to my manager, and I asked asked him why she was being paid more when I had been there for over a year, and I spoke 2 languages, which by the way has brought in a lot more business. He told me that this is the way that it was because she has 2 kids, so she needs the money. And when he said that, I lost it. I was only 18 years old, but I knew I did not deserve to be treated like this. So I gave him my 2 weeks notice right then and there. Obviously, this was 6 years ago, but I still think about it from time to time. And I've had people side with me saying that it was wrong of them to do that to me. And I've also had people saying that she should have been paid more than me, all because of her kids. And I was only a teenager right out of high school. So did I overreact in this kind of scenario? Because right now, I don't know if I made the right choice. I'm right there with you. I think it's absolutely ridiculous that she was getting paid more than you, especially since you were clearly a high-value employee. You had brought in a lot more business because you spoke 2 languages, and you had worked there for a year. It's not like you were new and you didn't know what you were doing. You had a firm understanding of how that place worked, so much so that you were the one who taught this lady how to do the job in the first place. And then you're gonna find out that she gets paid more than you? It's like, no, that's not gonna happen. If I was in your shoes, I'd be upset as well. Just because someone has a family and kids should not determine if you get paid more than coworkers who have been at this job longer than you. Why withhold earnings from somebody who's so experienced, only to then hand that over to someone all because they have kids and a family? I find that completely unfair, and that is absolutely ridiculous to have that kind of standard at your business. And I mean that across the board. In my opinion, experience as well as your expertise should absolutely determine your hourly wage, and not some arbitrary factor about how many kids you have. But that's just my opinion. What do you think? Leave a comment down below. Do you think the original poster was justified for quitting after finding out they're making less than a new coworker? Or does this new coworker deserve to make more money all because they have kids? Let us know down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. Am I the jerk for not staying out of my family's business and for ruining my dad's marriage all because of the things they were saying about my mom? Because right now, a lot of people are mad at me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 15-year-old female, and I'm in a weird situation, and I really would like some outside perspective because I'm kind of at a loss. I am my parents' only child, and I have a stepmom who we will call Eve. From what I was told, my dad and my stepmom were a couple first, but things didn't work out shortly after they had my siblings. And my dad eventually met and married my mom after she discovered that she was pregnant with me. My dad didn't marry Eve, and from what my aunts told me, she was really bitter about it and used my siblings as a weapon to punish my dad and mom. My mom tried her best, but after she found out that my dad and Eve were sleeping together, she just filed for divorce. During the marriage, my dad had an established business that grew, and because my mom was able to prove that she had done unpaid labor for my dad's business, my mom had some leverage within the divorce and agreed to relinquish a stake in the company for alimony, the house, and a car for herself while getting child support for me. For the next couple of years, my mom focused on me and going back to school, and that's because my dad convinced her to stop while she was taking a break from her studies to save up more money. She eventually graduated and tried looking for work, but nothing really interested her. My dad and stepmom, who had gotten married by then, were always angry with my mom for not getting a job so that they would pay less alimony, and they also tried to get 50-50 custody of me just so they could try and reduce child support payments. But I never liked living with my dad full-time because I was often made to babysit their younger children. Also, my older siblings never warmed up to me, and I simply didn't like the way that Eve and her family would talk about my mom. Eventually, my mom got certified for a job that she wanted and has been an independent contractor for years. Because of this, my mom submitted the paperwork to stop alimony payments, and since then, she's been living life. Last week, when I was with my mom, Eve, my sister, who we will call Zoe, and Eve's sister were in the living room saying very rude things about my mom. They called her a side piece, a gold digger, and said that my older sister had to take out loans because of the increase in alimony that my mom was awarded. I walked in and called Eve and Zoe liars, that my mom was never the side piece, and that my mom has been working for years, so there was no alimony. Now, when I did this, there was a big confrontation, and I ended up leaving, but I later sent Eve, Zoe, and one of Eve's sisters a link to my mom's professional social media page that listed the companies that she worked for. It turns out my dad never told his family that the alimony payment stopped, and instead of putting the extra money towards them, he's been keeping it for spending it elsewhere. It is crazy over there, and my dad and a few of his family members are saying that I'm wrong for meddling in grown folks' business. I just hated how they were talking and spreading lies about my mom, but maybe I went about it the wrong way. So am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because it sounds like your dad was literally throwing your mom under under the bus just so he could keep money from your stepfamily. Like, he literally just sat there and let them say all these horrible things, and then they're gonna tell you to mind their own business? Like, no, I'm sorry, that's not gonna happen. If someone was talking about my mom like that, I absolutely would have spoken up too. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. Their attitude and the way they were going about doing this was completely inappropriate, and I don't blame you for speaking up in the slightest. Am I the jerk for asking my niece to babysit my autistic son for free after I had to rush my cat to the hospital? Here's what happened. So to start things out, I'm a single dad to an 11-year-old son who is autistic. The way his autism presents is mainly through his personality. He's very smart, quiet, and prefers to get lost in the land of fire alarms and elevators. And he's genuinely a really good kid. I have quite a few friends who don't like being around kids, but they still adore him. I also have a 19-year-old niece who's staying with me for a few days to go to a concert. A couple days ago, my cat got sick with symptoms I have never seen before. Given that vets here are always booked a few weeks out, I had to take him to the emergency vet, and I told my niece to just stick around and watch my son while I run the cat down there. Well, she said that she's child-free, so she doesn't babysit. I told her it would just be a few hours, and that she knows my son well enough that he would, at the most, just ask for something to be warmed up for him. She then said to me, "Pay me and it's a deal." I told her that we could hash something out later because I had to get going. She then said, "Fine, you can go, but we will talk later." I then get back from the vet with a diagnosis, basically stating that my cat was allergic to my niece's perfumes, which she wears because it helps her feel closer to her bias. Well, my niece was pissed because she couldn't wear her perfume anymore, so she demanded $100 from me. But I told her no because, for starters, I wasn't making her throw it away, and secondly, she's staying here for free, and I'm already paying for her food and her transportation. It was also only 3 hours, which she would have spent on her phone anyways, and she even admitted that he just stayed in his room the whole time. She then accused me of guilt-tripping her, and she got my brother to buy her a hotel room because apparently I gaslit and manipulated her. My brother, of course, went off on me about how I ruined her trip, and he demanded that I compensate him for the hotel because he had to put everything on his credit card. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I don't know what to do. You did nothing wrong in my opinion, and honestly, this whole scenario and how it turned out is essentially proof that your niece is spoiled rotten. Like, just look at the way your brother reacted. Instead of asking you about what happened, he instantly just got her a hotel room and said, "I can't believe you would ruin her trip." For starters, you didn't ruin anything, and secondly, this niece is completely lying. Like, seriously, you were allowing her to go into your home and be there so that she can go to a concert later on, and then she has the audacity to be like, "Wow, I'm upset, you need to give me $100. It's like, dude, what are you talking about? That is not happening. I think at most I would give her like, what, $20 for sitting there for 3 hours and doing nothing, and I'm sure the 11-year-old probably could have been fine by himself, no problem, but it's honestly so ridiculous that this 19-year-old niece couldn't be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna watch him for like 3 hours and that's totally fine." But instead, she wants to act all entitled and be like, "Wow, you're making this so inconvenient for me," which in my opinion, that kind of reaction to this situation is just so uncalled for. So no, of course you're not the jerk, but also I would never let that niece stay over at my house ever again if I was in your shoes, because clearly she's just gonna take advantage of your kindness and she is never gonna return the favor ever. And that, in my opinion, especially when you asked her to do something so minor, is completely inappropriate and so uncalled for. I found out that my best friend is cheating on his wife, and now he is begging me not to say anything. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my best friend and I have been inseparable since we were 5 years old. We went to school together, did most of life's major milestones together, and I consider him my brother in all but blood. When his grandmother passed away while we were in high school, she even had me in her will, leaving me with a small trust to use for college. For as long as I can remember, his family has been mine and vice versa. We both got married in 2017, and our wives are very close and have been since we started dating. While I'm not as close with her as with my wife, I see his wife like my sister and I care about her the same way. 3 days ago, I was riding in my best friend's car when he asked me to put on some music. So I picked up his phone and I put in his code because we've known each other's passcodes for years. And while I was navigating Spotify, a text message came through from a contact named Pizza Place that said, "Are you coming over tonight?" I sat there stunned for a few seconds before turning over and asking who in the world Pizza Place was. Well, when I said that, he immediately started yelling at me for going through his messages before I told him exactly what happened. He pulled over into a parking lot and spent a few minutes yelling at each other until he finally came clean. Apparently, he's been hooking up with a coworker for about a month. He says that he still loves his wife and has no intentions of ever leaving her. He begged me not to tell his wife and that he's going to find a way to break it off with his other woman, but says that he's in too deep to just ghost her and doesn't know how to cut it off just yet. He says that he swears it will never happen again, and that his mistake doesn't warrant his life and his marriage being ruined. After some back and forth, I reluctantly agreed to stay quiet, but later that day, I remembered something that might change my mind. He and his wife started the process of IVF a few months ago, and I haven't pressed for details, but she has used my wife as a support through the process, and I know that it's been very taxing on her. Ultimately, my dilemma is this: is it right for me to keep this a secret, knowing that they are trying to bring a child into the world, and knowing that child could be born into a broken home if his wife finds out after she gets pregnant? I'm torn between the friend that I love like my brother and what I feel like would be the right thing to do. I know I'm not the one who was wronged here, but I feel so betrayed and angry. I feel like he's done something that's going to tear apart the small family the four of us have built together, as well as the bigger one that we planned on having one day. I know he's not a bad person, and up to this point, I'm pretty sure he's been a model husband. What should I do? Okay, maybe I'm heartless, but in my opinion, his wife absolutely deserves to know the truth. Like, this is seriously so messed up. Because what you would be doing by keeping this quiet is basically being complicit in this whole scenario. Like, in my opinion, staying silent is just not an option. Here they are trying to have a kid together, and this poor lady has no idea that her husband is a cheating dirtbag. Just imagine how she would feel if she finally does get pregnant, and then she finds out, oh wait, my husband's been cheating on me with a coworker. That would be devastating, because now she's pregnant with a guy who cheated on her. So if I was in this situation, I absolutely would tell the wife. Like, this is gonna suck either way, because if you stay quiet, then the wife is gonna be like, wait, you knew about this? But also, it sounds like your best friend is gonna turn his back on you if you do confess that he's a cheater. But in my opinion, I feel like the wife has every right to know. She deserves to see this guy for exactly what he is. And I personally just don't believe him when he's like, yeah, I'm trying to break this off, I'm gonna figure that out soon. Like, he's not gonna do any of that. If anything, he's probably freaking out because now somebody else knows about it. So hopefully this all goes over well, because this really is gonna suck no matter how you approach it. Because what your friend did is absolutely unacceptable. And in my opinion, his wife absolutely deserves to know the truth. An entitled, lazy realtor demands that I find a home within 60 miles of where he lives, as he refuses to drive any further for me to find a home. But after trying to reason with this guy and find some kind of common ground, he simply refuses to help, demanding that I do exactly as he says. And after dealing with this guy's weird entitled attitude for long enough, I decided enough was enough. And as a result, I fired him from being my realtor and went in a different direction, causing this guy to miss out on thousands of dollars worth of commission money. Here's what happened. I found this realtor who was very annoying and very entitled, but he was also very organized and incredibly responsive, even if all the signs were pretty much printed out. So I decided to go with him to buy and sell. And then my friend, who was buying also, decided to go with him based on the positive things that I told her. Between selling my house, buying a new one, and my friend's new house sale, he would have made commission off a total of $1.5 million in sales. Now, I made it clear that I work remotely and I can live anywhere within a couple of hours any direction from where I currently live. After looking at 2 homes with him that didn't work, I sent him more listings that I wanted to check out. The 2 homes viewed were both 10 minutes and 45 minutes away from his house. He repeatedly mentioned how glad he was that the house was close to his, since that house was an extremely rare find and not your typical house that you would see. Well, these 3 listings that I wanted to look at were 1.5 hours away from his house and were all close to each other. He then tells me all arrogantly that he doesn't need the money from being a realtor. He said to us, I'm retired and I just do this for fun, and I'm not gonna go more than 60 miles or minutes away from my house because then I'll have to drive out there at least 5 times just to make the sale. Now, granted, he lives 45 minutes away from my house already, so this was impossible as the area he lives in is for very rich people, which is way out of my price range. So I asked him if he was working with any other realtors in that area that could help me with those viewings, and he said to me, no, I don't share sales. So I politely let him know that this isn't going to work out and said I will need to find a new realtor, which worked out because I had not signed any agreements with him to be exclusive. Well, he's now furious and repeatedly tells me that he can find me a house close to his house and that I don't need to live wherever I wanted to go. But I explained to him that that is not his choice, and I don't want to be restricted to where he lives for my new home. It was like he was playing the role of my dad instead of my realtor. He then emails me another 4 long emails, doubling down each time about how I only need to live where he's decided that I should live for the sole sake of his driving time. He keeps mentioning how he showed me 2 houses already, and I just can't do this to him. He then tells my friend, I think I made her mad. Tell her to respond to me right now. And then just repeats the whole thing to her, which was so unprofessional that she decided not to go with him either. And then to top it all off, he was talking garbage about me to the loan officer all before he finally went away, which is honestly for the best, because I would rather take my money literally anywhere else. Yeah, that realtor is a complete moron. Imagine missing out on a sale all because you're too lazy to drive and take it. In fact, in the comment section of the post, somebody did the math and they figured out that this guy missed out on $45,000 worth of commission. Like, that guy's a complete idiot. Who in their right mind wouldn't take that at the drop of a hat? Especially when all you gotta do is drive what, maybe an hour away? That's easy money he could have gotten just by being reasonable. And it's also crazy to me that this guy was like, no, you live where I say you can live. You can't go out of this 60-mile bubble or I'm not gonna help you. Like, seriously, what a psychopath. And I don't care if you're retired or not. $45,000 is still $45,000. There's so much you could do with that even while you're retired working as a realtor. So yeah, this guy completely lost a massive sale, and I don't blame you for walking away for a second, because this guy sounds like an absolute nightmare. And if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my father that he should try to be a better parent for my half-sibling, as he was not a very good one for me or my sister? Because right now he is making my life miserable, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my father was not a great parent to me or my sister. He never showed up for any of our school plays or any of our games. He never took the time to just spend with us, either as a family or just as a father with his son and daughter. 3 years ago, we found out my father had an affair, and he had a kid who was 3 years old at the time. My mom ended their marriage, and my father moved in with the affair partner and ended up marrying her once the divorce from my mom was finalized. So my sister and I were already done with our relationship. She had to spend custody time with him for a year and was around his wife before she was his wife and his other daughter in that time, but then she ended all contact when the courts gave her permission. I needed to go to him for custody until last year when the courts let me stop it, which is eventually exactly what I did. His daughter was really confused by it all, and she was told my sister and I were her siblings, but we did not make any effort to know her or be in her life. My father and her mother pumped her full of hope that we would be close, but my sister and I want no relationship. Now, my father's wife brings her daughter to my football games, and she has shown up to dance competitions I take part in too. Her daughter gets excited to see me, but I never want to see her at them. I try to be nice, but I would rather not talk to her at all. My father showed up once or twice as well, and when I ignore them, I see how much it hurts the kid. She saw my sister last month when I had a dance thing going on, and my sister refused to look over their way and actually left as soon as she could. I could see my father's daughter crying, and yes, I know she's technically my half-sister, but I have no love for her. I have no interest in being her brother, and I have no wish to have a family life with her. Now, I don't blame her, I blame my dad, but she also means nothing to me, so I call her my father's daughter instead. Now, my father knows all of this, and after the dance thing last month, I reached out to him for the first time in a year, and I told him that he should try to be a better dad to her and to stop letting these games be played. I told him we will never want her, and he knows that, so he should protect her and focus on giving her a good life instead of putting us in positions to be jerks and ignore her or to make her more hopeful. He ranted and raved at me that we made him sound like a worse dad than he was to us, and he said my sister and I are no better because we have a responsibility to our younger sibling. But I quickly told him that we did not make her, we did not choose her, and we do not accept responsibility for her. But he made us, which made him responsible, and that's why he should do better. I had to end the call and block him because he went crazy down the phone at me. But he also saw me when he was out with friends, and he ranted at me some more and told me that I shouldn't have said what I did. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, you're not the jerk. Your dad is a massive moron. For starters, I think it might be important to know that yes, he's doing this all on purpose. This guy's doing this almost in spite of you or to try and make you feel uncomfortable for cutting him out of your life. That's the only reason he's hyping up this daughter, just so he can turn this on you and be like, oh wow, look how awful your siblings are. I can't believe they would treat you like this. This is incredible. But like in reality, this is so unfair to you, it's not even funny. He has no right to treat you this way, in my opinion, and I think it's so disgusting that he would go about doing this, especially considering that your wishes are very much known by him. So no, you're not the jerk, and honestly, based on what you're describing, I can definitely see why you cut contact with him and why you don't want any kind of relationship with him moving forward. Am I the jerk for blaming my parents for the way that my sister reacted to their other daughter finding us? Because right now, everything is a massive mess, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my parents were always open with me and my 3 other siblings about the fact that they had another kid before us and gave them up for adoption. But our parents always said that they had a son that they had given up and that we had a brother given up for adoption, and that was something they were very clear on. Not only did they say that, but they also built up my sister as their only little girl that they had. They would make it a thing for her to be proud of. She was adored by the family, she was their special little girl and their one and only. She was our only sister, and we would all be a little extra protective of her as her older brothers. Well, 5 months ago, we found out they lied when their daughter tracked us down and said that she wanted to get to know us and be part of the family. Now, my parents were so excited. They were hardly able to contain themselves, but my sister freaked out and has refused to meet her. She brought up our parents' lies and said that she was never really as special as they claimed, and told them that she would never accept a sister and would never accept being made less special. Our parents acted so confused about her reaction, and they tried reassuring her and they encouraged her to meet their daughter, but it was all just a complete mess. My brothers and I have met this new sister, and I've only met her once, and I believe it's the same for my brothers, but I felt no instant connection to her, and it was just all kinds of awkward. She was really disappointed that she didn't get to meet all of us, and she came on very strong when we met her, which made the awkwardness much more awkward. I think she was expecting us to be more excited than we were, and a lot more into the idea of being a family with her. The fact my sister refused to even meet her was something that she mentioned 10 different times when she met with us, and apparently she still brings it up, which made my parents bring it up several times to me and to my brothers, I'm guessing. The other day, they were saying how upset they were that my sister refused to come to my mom's birthday party, all because they had invited our other sister. They were saying how they thought she'd handled it better and would be excited, but I told them that it was all their fault for lying our whole lives, and then hyping my sister up to be their only daughter. I told them that the way they did it probably made her feel like she lost their love when it was no longer the truth in her world. My parents then told me I shouldn't blame them, and they also accused me of putting my sister before them and their daughter, and how clear it is whose side I'm on based on the lack of warmth to their daughter. They also said it was unfair to blame them for the actions of an adult. So honestly, am I at fault in this situation? Because at this point, I'm seriously frustrated and I just don't know what to do. No, you're definitely not at fault. The parents literally lied to you and your sister your entire life. They built her up onto this pedestal of being like, oh, you're our precious little daughter. You're the only one around. We love you so much. But then they're like, oops, we lied. Here's your other sister. I hope you enjoy. Like, that is an awful thing to do to anybody, let alone to your daughter who you literally built up to be this special person in the family. So no, you're not the jerk. You're not the one that spread this lie for what, 22 years? And you're definitely not the one who brought this into the family and expected everybody to welcome this other person with open arms. Because I know if I was in the shoes of you or your sister, I would be absolutely furious with my parents. Would I be the jerk if I didn't let my mother-in-law come to my daughter's birthday party after all the drama she's put me and my husband through? Because right now, I'm seriously considering not allowing her to show up, but at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, for a bit of background, last year in the month of May, we all got into an argument over our dog chewing on a table that was given to us by my in-laws, and that spiraled into this massive drama. I made the comment to them that they never cared about my feelings, and then I gave them examples. And one of those examples started in Christmas of 2021. I wanted it to just be my husband, myself, and our daughter. My husband was deployed the year before, so it would have been our first Christmas together as a family of 3, and my dad had just passed away, but despite this, my mother-in-law made it out to everybody that they were not welcome just because they couldn't be here on Christmas Day because they live 7 hours away, and I wanted it to just be the 3 of us, but they stayed a whole week before Christmas, but it wasn't on Christmas Day, so apparently to her, she just wasn't welcome. My mother-in-law yelled at me and said, "My son was gone for a year and my dad died in 2019. I just quietly responded by saying, well, my dad died too. She said to me, yeah, but mine was my life. And for literally a year, I was told that I took that the wrong way. Fast forward to this year in April, they came down because my father-in-law's mother was not doing good, and we all got into another big fight for not wanting our 2-year-old to sleep in a hotel bed with them. My mother-in-law then called my husband for days, just completely bashing me. She would
would say, I know in your wife's heart of hearts that she never wanted us to have a relationship with my grandchild. And when she has another baby, she'll just keep that one from us as well. She would also tell my husband that I was the reason he never went to see his grandma in the nursing home, as well as telling him how inconsiderate I was for not telling my father-in-law that I was sorry for his loss. The first day that I actually got to see them and spend time with them was the day after my father-in-law's mom passed away. I didn't know how to go up to him, and we were out most of the day, and I didn't want to upset him in public and talk about it because nobody was bringing it up. I made them cookies to try and lighten up the mood, and I brought him an angel, and that was my way of saying that I was sorry for what he was going through. As soon as they walked into our house, they were upset that the puppy had gone to the bathroom on the floor, and that there were dishes in the sink, and that because of that, they apparently didn't feel welcome, so they wanted to go to a hotel. And they wanted to do that while also bringing our 2-year-old daughter, but we said no, and that's where the fighting began. And as soon as we got back home, that's when she kept calling my husband just to bash me. Now, when it comes to being my fault supposedly that my husband never went to see his grandma, I always went with him when he asked me to. It was really hard for him because she does have dementia, and she would always beg for him to get out of there. So to place the blame on me was so uncalled for. One of the last times she called to bash me that my husband was trying to defend me on was what she said about a year ago about my dad. She said, I was just explaining why I needed Christmas with my son and his daughter. And when my husband tried to defend me on that comment, she said, well, I actually had a relationship with mine. And she said this in a snarky tone. And you know what? That did it for me. I was tired of the gaslighting. I was tired of her making up lies and excuses and bashing me over a disagreement with my daughter and disrespecting me and my feelings about losing my dad. She's always the victim, and I don't want to fuel that by allowing her to be around my daughter after how she's treated not only me, but my husband as well. And he still does not talk to her either. She still has yet to apologize, and she still is making excuses and blaming me for all these things, which, by the way, had nothing to do with what we got into a fight about in the first place. And she's always changing up why she's hurt by what we did to her and can never give us a real reason on how it's our fault. She is just trying to play the victim, and I just can't stand it any longer. As for my husband and his dad, they have made up, and actually his dad is divorcing his mom, and he is now wanting to move down here. So that's yet another reason why I don't know if she would be allowed at my daughter's party in August. I only get 1/3 birthday party for my daughter, and I honestly don't want the drama. So should I invite my mother-in-law to this party? What should I do? Okay, this is such an easy one, it's not even funny. Absolutely not. Do not invite this lady for a second. Look at all the unnecessary drama that she has dragged you specifically into. She has tarnished your name, she's blamed you for stuff that is absolutely uncalled for, and she crossed a serious line in my opinion when she tried to say, oh, well, at least I actually had a relationship with my dad. Like, that is such a disgusting thing to say that I think we can all understand why the husband is divorcing this idiot. So no, do not invite her for a second. She is going to ruin that party if she shows up, and your daughter definitely does not deserve that. My spoiled, rotten cousin refuses to be quiet at early hours of the morning, going as far as keeping me up until 4 in the morning sometimes, while refusing to listen to me in the slightest. And now, as a result, my aunt is incredibly angry with me, saying that I'm turning her daughter into a pushover, and that she should be allowed to do whatever she wants. Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old female, and I'm currently in grad school, and I come home during the breaks. I am on my summer break, and I live with my grandparents whom I've lived with my entire life, with my cousins and my aunt also living with us. I'm currently working a corporate job while I'm home for the summer, and my cousins are off of school, and their mom, who is my aunt, is also not working. Now, I have to wake up every day at about 5 o'clock in the morning. My cousin, who's 12 years old, sleeps in the room next to mine, and from midnight, even as long as 4 in the morning, she is either blasting music in her room or talking on her phone with her friends very loudly. The whole week, I had gotten 3 hours of sleep because of her. I would ask them to please be quiet because I have to wake up really early in the morning, but she would just disregard me entirely. And this has happened almost every break that I am home for. The last day of the week, I had still only had about 3 or 4 hours of sleep every single night, and I had to wake up at 6:30 in the morning on that day. Now, on that night, I had listened to her be loud all the way until 3 in the morning. So I went into her room and I yelled at her to please shut up because I have to wake up in 3.5 hours, stating that I haven't slept this whole week because of her. And at this point, I was so over it. I just needed sleep. Sometimes when I ask her to please lower her volume, I'll hear her yell out, "Hey Siri, make the volume higher." At this point, her mom is now mad at my grandma and myself, and she has refused to talk to us for nearly a week, all because she says it's not fair her daughter has to be quiet and not be allowed allowed to do what she wants to do because of me during her summer break. I mean, it's not like I'm asking her to be quiet at 10 o'clock p.m. I'm just asking her to be quiet from 12 o'clock until the morning. She then told me that I'm making her daughter be a pushover and that they now have to pacify my needs, which at the bare minimum is literally just me going to sleep and not being woken up at 3 in the morning. So should I talk to my aunt? Because it's honestly just so ridiculous that she's giving me and my grandma the silent treatment over her daughter being loud at 3 in the morning. What should I do? Okay, for starters, I don't think it would be unreasonable to go to the aunt and be like, listen, this is so uncalled for, and at least try to find some kind of middle ground in general, but it does sound like she's super entitled and she's not going to listen for a second. So if I was in your shoes, I would probably get some really petty revenge by returning the favor in full. If they want to wake you up at 3 in the morning, fantastic. Now they're going to get woken up at 5 in the morning, 2 hours after they went to bed. Like, if they really want to play this game, if I was in your shoes, I would happily play this game. I would buy the biggest speakers I could possibly get, and I would play that noise through the walls until they go crazy. And sure, maybe I sound petty, but in my opinion, if you're gonna mess with somebody's sleep schedule and you refuse to do the adult thing and fix the problem, then you're definitely gonna feel my wrath when I return that favor. So hopefully this goes well for you, and hopefully your aunt can see reason if you do decide to go the route that I described, because in my opinion, she absolutely deserves it. I no longer want to show up for my sister-in-law after she has flaked out on me so many times, because right now I am very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've known my sister-in-law for about 3 years. We don't hang out individually, so everything that she's flaked out on has been a group event or some kind of group activity. She has flaked and ghosted all of my wedding dress appointments. She's flaked out on all of my birthdays. She opted out of getting makeup done together for my wedding, and the list just goes on and on. I've always come to every party and celebration, and I've even met her family, including coming to her super last-minute bachelorette party, and I even flew out of the country in May for her wedding, but she has never shown up for anything that honored me or something that was initiated by me ever. Now, although we are different, we do get along and have things in common, and we have confided in each other before. The most recent thing that she flaked out on was a dinner cruise last month to celebrate my master's degree. Her husband couldn't make it, and he told me this very early on, but she was supposed to come. My mom paid for everybody's cruise tickets, but she bailed literally 2 hours before via text message, saying that she had a headache and asked to do something another time. Because of her history and the timing, I was upset, and it was honestly the last straw for me. My mother paid $100 per person, and I just hate consolation promises or consolation hangouts all because someone flaked out. Now, I was honest, but I was nice. I told her that my mom paid for her spot and that it made me sad that she had been unable to come to a lot of the things celebrating me and my fiance, and she didn't respond to me for 2 days due to her guilt and anxiety. Eventually, her husband basically told her that she needed to respond, since he too was pretty upset with her. Her reply was that she was truly sorry. She said to me, "It's not personal. It has everything to do with my anxiety, and I'm just struggling to get close to people." And it was so funny because she had no mention of her supposed headache, and she never even offered to reimburse my mom. I can understand struggling with closeness, but I don't think it's okay to be flaky. I mean, I was never proposing becoming best friends forever. She and her husband are relocating soon, as her husband got a job out of state, meaning that they will be visiting home at least 4 times a year. There's 2 goodbye parties coming up, one at their house and another laid-back one at our mother and father-in-law's house. But you know what? I just don't want to go to either of them. I want to give an excuse but still send a tiny gift. I'm kind of just wanting to draw boundaries and not keep giving efforts I'm not receiving back. What should I do? Okay, for starters, in my opinion, I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with you not showing up to those goodbye parties. Like, why should you be expected to show up for her when she can't even show up the day of for a cruise that somebody else booked for her? Like, that fact alone is incredibly crazy to me, and there's literally just no good excuse. But also, I think in the future, it might be a good idea to just not invite her to anything anymore. Like, she clearly doesn't appreciate you or any of the efforts you put in for any kind of celebration, so maybe it's time to just stop inviting her altogether to really get the message across. Because the way she's acting and her attitude about this is completely wrong. And if I was in your shoes, I would also be incredibly upset. An entitled old Karen pretends like she's gonna rob me as I'm trying to change out the money for an ATM machine. And despite the fact that she tried to claim it was a joke, I decided to jump into action as I turned around and judo flipped her onto the ground as hard as I could, resulting in the cops getting called and this old entitled Karen trying to lie and say that I attacked her first. Here's what happened. Okay, so I had a buddy who used to work with an armored cash transportation service. If you don't know, No, there are various types of these services, but for the most part, they transport large sums of cash to and from banks and businesses. They generally are paid to safely and securely transfer funds, as well as carry a form of personal protection, if you know what I mean. Now, the obvious reasons for this are because their vehicles may be a high-value target, meaning that they take safety very seriously and have protocols for protecting each other. This service in particular did ATM refills, as in they would go to the ATMs, check their cash level, and refill if necessary. Now, for some very important context reasons, my friend is a very large guy. He's an amateur boxing and MMA type of guy, so he is perfect for this line of work. Basically, nobody wants to mess with him. One day, he's doing an ATM refill at a gas station, and he recalls this 70-year-old looking woman coming through the door out of his peripheral vision. So why would he think anything of it? He's busy stocking cash into the machine, and while he's finishing up, he feels a poke in his back, and an older, gruff woman's voice says,
"Give me all the cash in a bag. This is a stick-up."
My friend said he thought he felt time freeze. He had been trained on these things, but everything goes so quickly, with his adrenaline pumping so fast. He whips around fast, grabs a robber by the wrist to try and disarm them, and does a throw to bring this person to the ground. But only then does he realize in his shock that this was an old woman. She looked like any other sweet old grandma out there, and he had her wrist in his hand while she was on the floor, absolutely screaming. He let go immediately, she's screaming for the police to get called, and he takes a step back and tries to take in the whole situation. The woman is helped up, but she's holding her wrist, and she immediately says what was going on as if she was in the right.
"It was a joke. My God, can't you take a joke? I'm just an old woman. I couldn't rob you. I just wanted to wait to use the machine."
My friend said he was just collecting himself and felt his adrenaline coming down when he heard what she said, and immediately he felt his blood rising and the adrenaline pumping back up. He said to her, "Oh my God, are you serious? You cannot joke about that stuff. You absolute moron. I'm an armored truck employee. Are you kidding me?" Now, the cops were called, and the original call that sent them in was that an old woman had just been attacked in a gas station, so the police came in and were immediately looking for somebody who hurt a sweet old lady. No one had really seen what happened because everyone was doing their own thing, but this entitled Karen is just telling everyone now how she didn't do anything wrong and how she was brutally thrown to the ground by this huge brute. This entitled old Karen is now talking to the police, holding onto her wrist and head, and crying while she talked to the police and they questioned my friend. At this point, my friend is absolutely losing it. He thinks he's gonna get framed hard for this, and the police are just telling him that from her side of the story, she was the one who got assaulted by him. He calmly tells them his side of the story, and while he's talking, he realizes that there's a security camera pointing directly at the ATM. He points to that and almost begs and pleads the cops to please check the cameras. Well, they watch the camera footage, and while it was in low quality and grainy, you see this entitled old Karen clearly pointing a finger right into his back, which is in the same fashion of an old school mock robbery style. Now, the cops were dumbfounded on why they thought someone would think that this was a joke. They go back inside to question her, and she brings up that it was just a joke. She says to them,
"I'm just an old woman, though. How on earth could I rob anyone? You would think that someone could handle a bit of humor. Must just be these newer generations being too soft."
My friend commented how she was just so blindly adamant that this was just a joke, and she was wrong for just a little bit of horseplay, as she called it. But he almost lost his mind when she heard her bring up the newer generation bit. An ambulance came and picked her up, and she had a sprained wrist and some bruising on her back, and she claimed she needed physical therapy, which my friend's company legitimately believes she probably needed, as she was in her 60s, and that throw to the ground was probably really rough. So right then and there, it ended up being no charges against my friend, nor did the entitled Karen get anything, though an investigation was launched into it. And I would probably assume that they wouldn't want to pursue charges against an old woman who was literally judo thrown onto the ground, which probably would be hard to make a convincing case to a jury of that. She did, however, attempt to sue the armored truck service for the injuries, and they were considering settling, but apparently the owner was so upset about the interaction that they decided to play it out in court. While I don't know all the details from that part, my friend did tell me that the case was dismissed and they didn't owe her a single dime. To this day, my friend said it was one of the scariest moments of his life because at first he thought he was going to get robbed, and then shortly after it was scary because he thought he was going to jail for attacking an elderly woman. He thinks about how it could have played out differently depending on the person loading the ATM, and that this entitled Karen should be counting her lucky stars that she is even still alive. Wow, that lady's an idiot, and in my opinion, she got exactly what she deserved. Who in their right mind would go up to an armored car and be like, "Oh, give me all your money, this is a robbery," and then then somehow not expect them to respond with like violence of some kind. Like that is seriously a dumb idea, and she absolutely deserved to get judo flipped in the way that she did. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled neighbor is parking her car in such a way where she is literally blocking my access to my unit. And despite talking to her several times to try and find some kind of middle ground, she simply refuses to move her car. And at this point, I'm considering having her car towed or going to other extreme measures just to try and get this lady off my back. Because right now, I'm very frustrated. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I live in a mother-in-law unit that's right across from another mother-in-law unit, and we're connected by a carport between us. The carport has her front door directly off of it, and my patio gate off of it, which leads to my front door. So this really is my only access to my unit at all. The unit access and the carport are off an alley along the side of the main house our units are built off of. This alley runs from our street to the block over, and it's a little passing way that other units for other houses can use for access. The first few weeks I was here, I noticed that she parks really crooked in the carport. My mother uses a cane, and when she visited, she struggled to get into my gate from the parking. During my lunch breaks, I would come home and do a chore or two just for 30 minutes and then leave. Now, I will park my car along her unit, leaving her carport driveway open to back out and reverse out of the alleyway. When I leave, I reverse out and join the main street. Now, my lease specifically states I can use the alleyway, and I've only been here for maybe about a month. Recently, she has been texting me to not block her in. Where I park though, there's literally 2 to 4 feet of space before her car is even in the way. I mean, I'm literally nowhere near it. I've explained my lunch breaks to her, but she just says, I'm always running late, so I can't ask you to move, so just stay away from there, period. But I seriously find this unreasonable. Your lack of preparation does not constitute an emergency on my part after all, but I explain my lunch breaks. It's not long, and my lease says that I can use the alley, but I will be mindful to stay out of her way. Fast forward to today, and I'm home maybe 10 minutes before I get a text message claiming that I'm blocking her in because she needs that spot that I'm in to back out, and I'm just in the way. Now at this point, I'm irritated. I walk out and I say that you have plenty of space to back out, so I don't understand what your issue is. She yells at me that there's not, and that she doesn't want to hit my car. I reply that there is enough space to back out of the alleyway. I continue to one-handed back my car out of the alley into the main road, and I decide to park on the curb. I watch her struggle to back out and then pull forward to leave. For reference, I drive a Honda CR-V, and she drives a small car. She's gone for the rest of the day, and when she comes home, she parks so diagonally, she left me maybe 1.5 feet of space to enter and exit my unit, and I'm seriously so irritated by this. My lease clearly states that I can use the alleyway, and I've told her this so many times. I also give her 4 feet of space so that she can reverse out of the alley. Just because she doesn't want to, or is just too stupid to figure it out, doesn't mean that she's trapped in there. With the way that she parked, I will be guaranteed to bump into her car and potentially scratch it up. I looked up regulations, and she's not allowed to impede access to my unit. I mean, what is the point of her acting like this? I just moved in here, and I don't talk to anyone. I just want to do some chores on my lunch breaks, just so I don't have to be exhausted after 9 hours and then do the chores. I don't know what else to do other than document, tell the landlord, and eventually have her car towed if I can't reach my unit. So would I be overreacting if I did any of this to my neighbor? Because right now, I'm so frustrated that I just don't know what to do. Wow, your neighbor is super toxic. Also, they suck at driving, and that is not your problem. First and foremost, it's time to get petty and nasty with this lady. In my opinion, you need to set up some kind of camera system, or if you're not able to do that, I would start taking pictures of where you're parking, showing clearly how much space you're leaving her so that she can back out, as well as what she's doing in the carport itself. Like she's literally blocking the way so you can go home. This is across the board not okay, and for her to act like this is completely unreasonable. You just want to go home and do chores on your lunch break. And you know what? If I live closer to home, I would absolutely do the same on my lunch break too. And you have every right to. Your lease literally says, yes, you can use this alleyway, but she's sitting there trying to be like, just stay out of my way. Just don't even go near it, period. Like this lady does not rule this alleyway, and she's only upset because you're probably the first person to fight back on what she's saying. She was probably so used to telling off the previous tenant that now she has somebody who's not going to listen, and it now seems like she's almost doing this on purpose just to try and like get under your skin. That, in my opinion, is super toxic, and you do not deserve that in the slightest. And you know what? If the landlord doesn't do anything, and if the documentation doesn't prove how she's parking,
as well as how much room you're giving her on the way out, then and only then at that point, I would definitely start towing her car. If she wants to play stupid games, then she can absolutely win stupid prizes. And her blocking your access to your own house, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. An entitled neighbor hates the fact that I told on him to the city code enforcement team, as I exposed him for having a fire hazard in his backyard that could cause a massive problem for everybody involved. And now, as a result, he's begun to say all these terrible things about me and has put my reputation on the line, where I had no choice but to fight back. Here's what happened. So I had an issue with the people renting the house next door. They were trying to tell me that I couldn't trim their tree that was hanging over their property line. I hired an arborist who received permission from their property management company, and he trimmed all the branches that were coming across the property line. He did check to see if the property management company wanted to pay half to trim the whole tree, but they declined. So the neighbors and I had the tree issue. And during that dust up, the husband actually told me that he doesn't care about our HOA rules. Now, when their backyard became a fire hazard, as it was filled with nearly 6-foot tall weeds that were dead in color, I ended up snitching to the city code enforcement, especially after one of my security camera installers saw their back lawn climbing a ladder to install one of my AI Pro cameras. The installer said something to me about the lawn and was like, "What is going on?" My friends on the internet and the Nextdoor application told me that as the 4th of July approaches in California, one rogue firework could set it all on fire, meaning that my house and my newly shared fence with them would go up in flames. And the neighbor behind them had purchased new shared fencing too. So you know what? I'm glad I snitched on them. The family was cited by the city, and the husband bangs on my door and rings the doorbell a week later. He's filming the interaction on his phone, probably just to protect himself. Now, I didn't answer my door because I never answer it, and I could hear him calling me a piece of garbage to the neighbor next door for reporting him via my doorbell camera. He tells the neighbor that I chopped down his tree and a few other things, with the neighbor telling him that he needs to be more careful and come and talk to him. Now, my buddy at the police department said not to engage with this guy, but around 2 weeks later, I see the husband outside on video camera trying to grab his trash can and dart into the house. I tried yelling at him last week, but he acted like he didn't hear me. I then run outside and I tell him to please knock on my door now. I was wrapping up my hands and I told him that you were talking trash earlier, so please just try and hit the repeat button. I yelled at him from my property to never knock on my door ever again, and that if he does, he is going to mess around and find out very quickly. And as I was returning to my garage, this guy called me a hillbilly. He filmed the whole interaction, and so did my security cameras, and I made sure not to threaten him or get in his face. I remained on my property just so I could send him a message. The neighbor waits to go inside, and then he walks along the sidewalk in front of my house to talk with the neighbor he had called me a piece of garbage to a few weeks earlier. It's then that I hear him discussing potentially talking to a lawyer. The neighbor then said that I had my gloves waiting for him, so they suggested that they avoid me and stay inside their fence. Now, I grew up in Gary, Indiana, which is right next door to Chicago. I got into a lot of fights growing up because that was life until we moved to a military base in Texas. And I learned that I didn't need to fight anymore, despite being in the Air Force for 22 years and serving and retiring. But regardless, that side of me from Gary still exists. And that's despite the fact that I never raised a fist to anybody in the military. The level of disrespect by this neighbor was unbearable in our beautiful HOA. But on the bright side, they will be forced to move out in 2 months, which all comes down to the fact that they can't afford the rent or the utilities. And in my opinion, I seriously cannot wait for them to finally leave. It is so funny to me that this entitled neighbor has the audacity to try and talk garbage about you behind your back, but the second you're like, "Oh, come on, let's hit the reset button, say that again to my face," they go running back to their property line and are like, "Oh yeah, you're just a hillbilly." It's like, dude, what are you talking about? This guy's backyard is a literal fire hazard. And from the sounds of it, living in California is like the one place you don't want to have that, because the original poster is right. That could have gone up in flames and really ruined a lot of personal property. So seriously, good for you for putting this guy in his place, because in my opinion, he absolutely had it coming. An entitled old jerk says that he's going to destroy me on social media, all because his offer on a house wasn't accepted. And despite the fact that I tried to discuss his options on getting things taken care of, this entitled jerk was refusing to hear me out, claiming instead that he was going to ruin my life. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I'm a real estate agent, and one day I received a lead from someone out of state who wanted to relocate to my city. We did a Zoom meeting, and he and his wife seemed very nice. After our meeting, he asked me to book 8 to 10 homes, as he was planning on coming out here in the next week. Now, this was fine, as I had plenty of availability for his visit. Well, this entitled jerk shows up
up with his buddy at a home just outside of town. My first clue that he was going to be a problem was when he and his buddy refused to wear masks to the seller's home. This was back in 2021, so COVID was still a big deal, and sellers did not want people in their homes without a mask on. The entitled jerk's friend says to me, "Oh, I don't need no mask because I'm retired." But I did not glorify that stupid statement with a response. They were also annoyed about taking their shoes off in the house, and this annoying friend eventually goes and just gets some plastic bags to put over their shoes. We are in the house for about 20 minutes when he decided that he didn't want to see anything else, even though I had already booked a bunch of houses and blocked off my day just for him. He then told me to write up the offer, which I thought that it was really stupid to fly all this way and make a decision without seeing the other homes. Anyways, I wrote the offer, but it was contingent on him selling his house in the other state. The sellers rejected the offer since he didn't even have his house ready to list or even sell. I called him after he had flown home and I delivered the bad news and explained their reasoning. Well, immediately he got very angry and started telling me that this area was a piece of garbage with ugly homes. He claimed that I misled him about the area as there had been a methanol plant proposed but canceled a few miles from the house. It was like he thought I was trying to sell him a house in some toxic hazard site, which really was far from the case. I let him vent for a few minutes as I kept my cool, and his wife then jumps in on the call and basically parroted everything that he said. Then they eventually hung up on me. He then calls back a few minutes later even angrier and just keeps going on, and at some point I lost a bit of my cool and I decided to hang up on him. The very next day, he starts texting me demanding an apology and that if I don't apologize, even though I had nothing to apologize for, he was going to destroy me on social media. He also kept saying to me, "Boy, you've done it this time," while also saying other awful remarks. I asked my managing broker to call him and deal with the situation. That phone call was pretty useless and the guy kept calling and texting me. The managing broker then actually calls me and he asked me, "Well, how could you have handled this better?" And yes, as you can probably guess, the managing broker really sucked. I ended up blocking the guy, and his looming statement that he was going to destroy me on social media went literally nowhere. Last I checked, he moved to Texas, which was wonderful news to me and a blessing for my entire state. He also called the listing agent and screamed at her. Now, when I called him that night, I explained to him that he could submit the offer again in a few days if he could just hurry up and list his house. That's all the sellers want to see. This home purchase could have worked out if he had just gotten his house listed as soon as possible. But no, he had to act like an entitled jerk with a behavior that I'd expect to see from a child and not something that I would ever see from a 60-year-old man. Wow, that guy's a massive jerk. He literally was going to be like, "Oh, I'm going to destroy you on social media." But it's like, wait a second, I didn't do anything. You're literally trying to get me canceled and get me in trouble for something that you didn't do. Because from the sounds of it, if they literally just like, I don't know, listed their house when they were supposed to, all of this could have been avoided altogether. It literally could have been taken care of right then and there, but this guy wanted to be stubborn and be some massive jerk. So good for the original poster for standing their ground and refusing to take this sitting down, because this entitled jerk absolutely deserved to be put in their place. An entitled Karen demands that I turn down a full scholarship to Yale simply because she thinks that I'm going to be indoctrinated in some kind of way. Here's what happened. Okay, for starters, I'm an 18-year-old male, and I got very lucky as I was accepted to Yale with a full scholarship for undergrad, which is where I'll be going in the fall. I also work part-time as a cashier at my local Publix, which is a popular supermarket in the South. I've had my fair share of interesting people come through my line, but this was the most interesting encounter I've had in a while. It was late in the evening, and this entitled Karen comes through my line, being as polite as she possibly could be at first. And she was polite all the way up until she noticed my apron. For reference, cashiers at Publix have to wear aprons, so I had affixed to mine the letter Y on my apron to show some of my school pride. My store is also right near a college, so the students who attend that college will wear pins to show their school pride, hence why I wore a Yale pin. The lady notices the pin as I'm ringing her up and asks me what it's for, and if that's for some trade school or some community college. But it's then that I tell her that I'll be going to Yale in the fall for a full scholarship. Immediately, her demeanor changes, and she loudly proclaims that I made a terrible choice and that I'm going to be indoctrinated. But indoctrinated into what? Like seriously, who knows what she's talking about? She also proclaimed that she is part of the greatest generation because she was not indoctrinated. After I gave her the receipt, she ended with a stern warning not to get involved with any satanic rituals and that she was looking out for me, a random cashier that she just met. But needless to say, I will be respectfully declining to heed her advice. And funny enough, that was the third person to say something along those lines that I literally should turn down going to Yale, or else I was going to be indoctrinated. And I'm honestly just so done with entitled jerks who act this way. Wow, imagine getting into like a really prestigious college, only to then have a bunch of jerks be like, no, don't do it, you're gonna get indoctrinated. And then they don't even like try to explain to you what in the world that means. Like that is literally the most useless thing anyone could possibly say to you, because they're just gonna walk up and be like, oh, you're gonna be indoctrinated, okay, gotta go, see you later, instead of like explaining their opinion and being like, this is why. But even then, I guarantee you they didn't have any good reasons behind it. So yeah, that entitled Karen was completely out of line, because I'm sure that your experience at Yale is gonna be fantastic. An entitled Karen abandons her child at our bookstore, leaving her in the corner just reading a book, as this Karen was under the false assumption that us, as employees at this bookstore, were just gonna sit here and babysit her child, while she ran off to another mall to go shopping. And as a result of her negligence, we ended up calling the police on this entitled Karen, resulting in her getting arrested right there on the spot. Here's what happened. So this happened a while ago, and I recently got reminded of it after meeting up with an old friend. So I thought that I would share this story, because I know after 13 years in retail and customer service that many people would think that what she did was okay. Back when I worked in a bookstore at a shopping mall, there was this little girl, maybe 5 or 6 years old, just sitting quietly in a corner, and she was sitting there looking at the pictures of the book. Now at that moment, we had just noticed her because she was kind of hidden and tucked in a corner and was totally silent. We asked her where her parents were, and she said her mom was in the shop next to ours and told her to wait in the bookstore. We asked if she knew how long it had been, and she pointed to the hands of the clock of where they had been when her mom left, and I was shocked to find out that it had been nearly 3 hours. I still can't believe that kid stayed quiet for so long, and I'm still kicking myself for not noticing her sooner. We took her to the mall security, and they started looking for the mom. Well, that brainless woman was in another mall next to ours, and for a bit of reference, there are 3 smaller shopping malls on the same street all next to each other. Now, the mall security was shocked. One of them was a dad and went to get the kid biscuits and an apple juice, and he knew right away that she was really hungry after 3 hours all alone waiting for her mom. I will never forget how happy she was just munching on those chocolate chip cookies and sipping her juice box. They then called the police and protection services, with me and my colleague waiting with the kid so she wouldn't be too scared. Now, when the mom finally arrived, I swear she just did not understand at all why what she did was so wrong, and then got angry at us for going to security. She argued that her daughter was safe in our store and that she knew to not cause any trouble. Well, that got the police very suspicious, because the kid was indeed very quiet and eerily well behaved. And looking back, it is pretty obvious that she was scared into being this quiet and calm child. The mother's justification was basically that since our store was selling books for kids and some toys, we were essentially babysitters, and that we were the ones in the wrong for not wanting to do our job and watch the children. Needless to say, the cops were just totally done with her and took her over to the police station, with the kid going to protection services. This mom was literally kicking and screaming, saying that she was going to sue us for slander and defamation. And of course, as you can probably guess, nothing ever even happened. But I hope that this little girl is now with better people, and that she is now with people who love and cherish her. Okay, that is an insane thing to do to your child, because seriously, what in the world was that lady thinking? She literally left her 6-year-old child at a bookstore and said, okay, have fun. Like, this isn't even like a teenager who can take care of themselves to some extent. This is a literal toddler just sitting there reading a book in the corner. Like, who knows what kind of bad things could have happened to that kid if those workers didn't notice them right away. So I'm really glad that the mom got in trouble, because this kind of behavior is completely inappropriate, and that kid did not deserve to be left like that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my mom and siblings that they should learn to live with the consequences of their decisions after they ostracize our dad? Here's what happened. Okay, so my family is my dad, my mom, my 2 sisters, and my 2 brothers. And I'm a 17-year-old male, and I'm the oldest. My dad was estranged from his dad since he was my age, and his mom passed away when he was 10 years old. So we never knew grandma either. My dad was open about the fact that grandpa wasn't a very nice man, and all kinds of stuff, but he never really went into details. I know he really did a number on my dad, because I still sometimes see my dad look ashamed as if he spilled something or made some kind of mistake. I also know that he tries to hold back anytime he cries and looks downright disgusted with himself for crying. 3 years ago, his dad reached out, and my mom and my sister were so excited and basically just welcomed him into the family
family, but my dad said no way. He and mom fought a lot about it, and my siblings all told dad that they had a right to know our grandfather and that he should love his dad. I was dragged along at first, but I stopped going. My dad refused to have any part of it, and my dad and mom fought a lot because he told her that his father was never going to step foot inside of our house, and if he did, then dad would leave and he would never come back. So mom takes my siblings to go see him. Well, Christmas was a huge fight last year because they decided to spend it with this dude, and my dad refused to go, and so did I. My siblings started crying into my dad's face that they wanted Christmas with him, and my mom was calling him selfish. She tried to look at me and say, "I'm your mother and you're going to listen to me." But my dad told her that he's my father and I could stay with him if I wanted to. They are still sour about it, but then my dad took me out for his birthday and didn't come home until late because he found out they were planning to take him out to meet with his father. My dad told my mom and my siblings, since he cannot trust them with his birthday, he will only celebrate with the people that he can trust now. I also heard him tell my mom that this could not continue and that they needed a divorce. Well, now my mom is freaking out because she doesn't want the divorce, and my siblings are really upset. They then told me that I should help out since dad and I are still close, but I told them that they should learn to live with the consequences of their decisions. I pointed out to mom that she was always big on us learning, and I told them that this was a big one. My mom told me that my siblings are so young and they don't deserve this, but I told her it's all her fault because she undermined dad by making a point to demand that he come along in front of my siblings, and so they now think that they can manipulate him and not listen. So right now I'm at such an impasse and I seriously don't know what to do. Well, this is a classic situation of you mess around and then you find out. Like, the dad made it pretty clear that no, he does not want to see his dad, because clearly the grandfather in this story is not a good person. He ruined the original poster's dad in a lot of ways, and it sounds like this is a really sensitive subject. So the fact that your mom as well as your siblings are like, "Oh, come on, you just gotta see your dad. You need to love him. He's your dad." Like, that is beyond insensitive and it's so toxic. These people are idiots. Did they not expect that this was going to happen? Like, if I was the dad in this story and I had this kind of upbringing, I would be upset with my family as well. They are clearly disrespecting your boundaries and that's just not fair. So overall, this situation sucks for you and your dad because it seems like you're the only one who is really understanding how badly this is affecting him. And any consequences that come along because of this decision truly is all of their fault. Am I the jerk for replacing my maid of honor in my wedding, all because she refused to buy her dress for my wedding? Here's what happened. So I'm getting married in September, and all of my bridesmaids and I went shopping a couple of months ago. For some context, we're all in our mid-20s, we are employed, we have no children, and my wedding is out of town for my maid of honor and a couple of other bridesmaids. But as a consolation, I'm getting a hotel room for all of the out-of-town bridesmaids for the wedding. I've known my maid of honor since 5th grade, and we were best friends all through school. I moved away for college and we drifted apart, but I would see her every time I came home. The dress shopping trip was out of town, so I paid for the 2 hotel rooms while we were there, and I drove. My mom brought my maid of honor and a couple of other bridesmaids since they still live in my hometown. Now, when it comes to the dresses, my only requirement for them was that they had to be a very specific blue color and there had to be no satin material. We spent the whole afternoon trying on dresses and everyone found one that they liked, including my maid of honor. I've been told that she picked out a $350 dress when most of my other bridesmaids had dresses that were maybe about $150. The next day was spent relaxing at the pool, where my maid of honor began complaining to one of my other bridesmaids about having to pay for her own dress, saying that it was my wedding and that if I wanted a specific dress for them to wear, then I should pay for it, and that I didn't pay for the bridesmaid's dress when I was in her wedding. Well, my bridesmaid told her that I was being pretty reasonable with my request and that she can get any dress that she wanted in her budget. My maid of honor disagreed and the bridesmaid shrugged her off, but told me all about it later. A month later, my maid of honor called me and asked for me to buy her dress for her. I told her it wouldn't be fair if I bought her dress and no one else's, and I couldn't afford to buy everyone's dress. She said she is the maid of honor and that everyone would understand that it was a privilege that she got. Well, I disagreed, and our argument got a little bit heated. It ended with me saying that if she could not get the dress, she could not be in the wedding, and I was not budging on this. And after I said that, she hung up the phone on me. Her mom has since called me saying that I'm being very rude for not doing this one thing for her, also that she can be there on my big day, and that I don't know what it's like to not have money for things. I told her that I have struggled before too and understand, but also said I'm not paying for the dress because it won't be fair to all the other bridesmaids. Since then, I've made one of my other bridesmaids that has
help with all the planning my new maid of honor. And I've told my ex-maid of honor that she is still invited, and I did send her an invitation. But some family is telling me that I should have just paid for the dress. I know my ex-maid of honor is very tight on money, but she's known that she was going to be in my wedding for nearly 2 years at this point. So I thought that maybe she would set money aside for it. So am I the jerk for not paying for her dress? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. For starters, it seems like she got something like super expensive. She is literally spending $200 more than she needs to, when it sounds like the other bridesmaids have found like a reasonable cost. If she really can't afford that dress, then maybe get something cheaper. And for her to be like, no, you need to do that for me, I deserve it. Like, that level of entitlement is so annoying, and it's just so uncalled for. Because the original poster has so much on their plate as it is, that the last thing they need is to pay for another thing for this wedding. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and honestly, the way your former maid of honor was acting, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. An entitled mom allows her spoiled rotten children to hit me in the head with a beach ball over and over again while I was at the pool. So I decided to get some much needed revenge by secretly deflating the beach ball just to prevent these stupid kids from bothering me any further. Here's what happened. So yesterday was a rough day for me at the gym. Now, deadlifts are a wonderful exercise, make no mistake, but the last thing you want to do after completing a set of deadlifts is smile, or even just move in general. So rather than my usual plan of swim a few laps in the pool, I opted for floating around a little in the leisure pool at my gym. I moved from one spot to another, trying to steer clear of children doing what children do in the pool. Things like screaming, throwing toys around, swimming around without looking where they're going, and effectively turning leisure swim time into a sneaking mission. I was rather successful at this, right up until a boy who appeared to be around 7 or 8 years old decided to spike a beach ball into the back of my head. Now, it wasn't a huge one or very heavy, and there was little damage on my end. I figure it might have been a mistake, so I reclaim the beach ball and I give it to the boy who had thrown it at me. Well, less than a minute later, and I get hit in the head again, and so I reclaim the ball and I ask the kid nicely to stop throwing stuff at me. He then nods and smiles, and then I go back to what I was doing. Well, I can give you 3 guesses as to what happened next, and if you need more than one to assume the boy spiked the ball into the back of my head for the 3rd time, see me after class and we can figure this out. So after strike 3, I grabbed the ball and I asked the kid where his mom was. Well, mom, as it turns out, was reading a book on a lounge chair by the poolside. And as a side note, this place has an excessive number of lifeguards, meaning that it's definitely not as negligent as it would be at like a hotel pool or something like that. So I dragged the child and the volleyball up to the mom, and I explained that the kids hit me with the beach ball 3 times and it's really not cool. This entitled mom then decided to do the head toss thing, which is something you do when they're rolling their eyes behind huge sunglasses, and said something to the effect of, "It's just a beach ball, boys will be boys." I then toss the ball onto the mom's legs and I get back into the pool, keeping an eye out for that stupid kid. A few minutes later, I heard a muffled giggle behind me, and then I felt the soothing sensation of a beach ball to the back of my head for the 4th time. I reclaimed the ball yet again and intended on making eye contact with the kid and popping their ball right in front of them. But then the bad idea fairy hit me in the head with her magic wand, and I had an evil grin, not unlike the grin this kid gave me after strike number 1. So I tell the kid, "Come here, I want to show you something." And then I submerge the ball underwater and pinch the air nozzle, which makes the air bubbles shoot out. And this happens to look exactly like someone was farting underwater. Now, he's not strong enough to submerge the air-filled ball, so I tell him to get on top of it and use his body weight to sink the ball. He managed to do that, and his face lit up like it was Christmas morning and that he had gotten everything that he had asked for. He promptly swam off and found other people to annoy. I didn't get a ball thrown at me again, and the kid's mom was pissed that she had to blow up the beach ball again. She was asking her son how it went flat so fast when it was a brand new beach ball, all in between big gasps of breath trying to fill the beach ball up. The kid just points at me on my way to the locker room, and I just wave and say, "Oh, it's okay, boys will be boys." And I've honestly never felt better about getting back at somebody in my life. Yeah, the original poster is a much better person than me, because I definitely would have popped that ball right in front of the mom. I would have been like, "Hey, this is strike number 3 and this is not going to happen again." And the second she would say, "Oh, boys will be boys," that's when I would turn around and be like, "Oh, really?" And then like rip the ball in half. Like, seriously, I'm trying to relax in the pool and I don't need people bothering me like that, especially someone's stupid kid that's not being supervised. But I do think the way that the original poster handled this was really funny, and I don't blame them in the slightest for deflating that stupid beach ball. Am I the jerk for taking all the clothing in my size off the rack just so resellers couldn't grab everything before I looked through it? Here's what happened. Last week, I had time and stopped into a thrift store, and as I walked
walked in, they were just putting out stuff from their truck. And trust me, I am never so lucky to be there when that happens. And the shops are always very picked over with just Old Navy or Target clothing whenever I go. So I was happy that I might finally find something. I started browsing normally and was finding some good stuff for once. Then I saw a group of 3 women come in. One had a little computer for scanning books, and the other 2 had iPads or something like that. And I'm assuming it was to check for resale prices. Either way, they were clearly resellers, and they started grabbing stuff after checking labels. I felt a sense of dread because I wouldn't be fast enough to check, so I just swooped everything off the rack and into my cart that was my size. When 2 of them got to me, they just started staring. I said to them, "What?" And one of them said, "We would like to be able to see what's on the rack as well." But I said that they could as soon as I was done. She scoffed at me and said, "That's rude. We'd like a chance to shop these clothes too." But I just ignored her and started looking at things one by one, taking my time and then putting them right back on the rack. The women were getting mad and snatching things basically out of my hand. I held up a nice top and one of them tried grabbing it out of my hand. I then said, "Excuse you," and I turned my back to her. Well, they got all pissy and one stomped off to get a worker. The worker came over and asked what was going on. I said I was looking at items from the rack, same as anybody else, but they said I was hoarding everything so that they wouldn't get a chance to look. Well, the worker said that I wasn't doing anything wrong, and then they said to me, "Thank you so much for putting everything back when you're done." I finished what I was doing with the women breathing down my neck, and I took my clothes to go and try them on. One of them kept following me and asked me what my problem was, and asking why I was being such a jerk. But I just said, "Oh, I'm sorry that you're having a bad day, but it's really not my problem." So am I the jerk here? I just wanted the chance to be able to find nice clothes for once, and from my point of view, I didn't do anything different than people who fill up their carts and then go and try everything on. Plus, I didn't even take all the good clothing to begin with. What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, but I think you're absolutely right that these people were definitely going to sell that crap online. They were not there to shop, they just wanted to try and get as much clothing as they could and then resell it to try and make a profit. And that really sucks for the rest of us who just want to find good products at a cheap price and try and I don't know, get clothing that lasts that we might enjoy. And the women in this story were just acting like vultures the entire time. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that if she didn't want kids, then she should not be expecting a huge Mother's Day celebration? Here's what happened. Okay, so growing up, my dad stayed at home while my mom worked. While my mom financially provided for my sister and myself, she was emotionally hands-off. She came to a ballet recital here and there, but she didn't want to help out with homework, she didn't want to listen when we needed advice, as well as many other things growing up. Our dad did 95% of the emotional labor. I later found out from my mom that my dad was the one who wanted kids. She loved her career and didn't mind providing financially, but she did not want to do any of the stuff related to raising us outside of that. I am very grateful that she provided for us financially, but I do admit that it hurts that she wasn't there when we needed her. She was physically present, but not emotionally present. And as this comes up, to be clear, the arrangement was my mother's idea and not my father's. That being said, I do agree that my father was equally as selfish for making this arrangement. Now, my dad always did grand gestures for her. Mother's Day was always a big deal with a huge brunch and flowers and lots of gifts. She was always super spoiled on that day, but she did nothing for him on Father's Day. He had to do everything for himself until my sister and I were old enough to do something for him. I get that was the arrangement they had, but I know it made my dad sad. I once asked why he didn't get the same hoopla that our mom got, and he just said that Father's Day isn't as important as Mother's Day. As adults, my sister and I have tried to rectify it. We do Father's Day very big, and our dad loves it. We grill for him just how he taught us, and we throw a huge barbecue with some other family members. However, we've turned Mother's Day into a very low-key event. We still celebrate our mom, but she usually gets a quiet lunch at a restaurant of her choice and a few gifts. After my mom ended up skipping my sister's baby shower this year, all because she didn't see the big deal with someone having a baby, my sister wanted to do nothing for her. We did send her some gifts, but we spent Mother's Day with each other, our husbands, and our own kids. My mom told us after Father's Day that she was hurt that we didn't do more for her in the recent years, but I said that since she put in almost no emotional labor into raising us, we've decided that we're putting none into her. She said, well, our father and I had an agreement, and I pointed out that yes, that might be the case, but we never agreed to it, and it wasn't fair that we grew up with an emotionally absent mother who literally just didn't want us. And to be fair, we have had this conversation with our dad as well, and he he admits that it wasn't fair to us either. I also said that if she didn't want kids, then why should she be celebrated as a mom? My mom is upset with the both of us and called us some ungrateful brats. My dad feels bad for her but supports our choice. So am I the jerk for not really doing much for my mom on Mother's Day? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think you have every right to spend time with the family member that you want to be around. Like your mom treated you and your siblings like garbage. She refused to be there for you emotionally and just didn't show up when it counted for your emotional needs. Sure, she was physically there, but that's like one half of the equation. I really do think your parents are idiots for setting this up in the way that they did, because it put way too much pressure on the dad to literally provide all the emotional labor, when in reality that easily could have been split between the two of them. So that first and foremost really sucks. And you know what? My parents were very busy with their career while I was growing up, but they still decided to be present in my life regardless of how busy they were. They didn't just put food on the table and then walk away. They would put food on the table and spend time with me. They would be there for me and they would listen to my needs and my wants in life. And I think that's a mark of a good parent. So in that regard, your mom missed the mark. And it really seems like she's just willfully ignorant to how stupid she was being while you guys were growing up, because this all could have been avoided so easily. All she had to do was be more present in your life, and then the kids would be more than happy to be involved in your life. So no, I don't think you're the jerk in this situation, because I think the way your mom's acting is super selfish. An entitled Karen doesn't get her way after she tries to return an item to our store that she definitely did not buy here. And after screaming and cussing at me as well as demanding a manager, this entitled Karen stormed out of our store, but not before throwing the item at my head in a fit of rage. Here's what happened. I used to work retail at a mom and pop costume store. It was the Saturday before Halloween, and I was working the register closest to the door, which meant that I was handling returns and exchanges. Like most costume stores, all sales were final at our store. That being said, we did our best to accommodate customers and would exchange sizes or issue refunds for costumes with manufacturer defects. And we would also do repairs on items that were just really poorly made. About 30 minutes into the shift, this woman came in for a return and is told by the greeter that I can help her with what she needs. She walks up to my register, completely ignoring the fact that I'm in the middle of checking someone out, and starts to tell me that she needs to do a return. Well, I stop her and I tell her I heard her conversation with the greeter, but she will have to wait until I'm done with my current transaction. She rolled her eyes at me, but she did step aside. Once I was done, she hands me a dog's lobster costume and tells me that she needs to return it. I ask her if she has the receipt and the reason for returning it. She says she doesn't have the receipt and that it was too small for her dog. I explained to her that all sales are final, but if she wants to exchange the size, we can try and do that. She starts trying to argue with me, but I stop her and I tell her that before we could do anything else, I need to look up her receipt. The best way to go about doing this is to scan the item and look up the sales history itself. But when I go to do that, nothing comes up. I then try a keyword search, but I still come up with nothing, and I even check the item list for the manufacturer, but I still come up empty-handed. I then ask the woman if she is sure that she got it at our store, because as far as I can tell, we just don't sell it. Well, this apparently was the worst thing I could have said, because what she does next honestly blows my mind. She then starts shrieking and cursing that of course she's sure. I ask her if she's got her credit card app on her phone and can show me the transaction on her end, as that might help me find it, but she just continues to shriek at me and refuses to comply. She then points to a generic price sticker on the front and tells me that this is our store's price sticker. I pick up another item and show her what our store's price sticker actually looks like, but at this point she is literally turning red and cussing up a storm. And it was right then that she demanded to speak to a manager. However, our owner was standing at the register next to me the entire time. He says that he's been listening in and there's absolutely nothing else we can do for her unless we can track down some kind of record of the purchase. She then shrieks and curses some more and goes to storm out of the store, but right as she reaches the door, she turns around and throws the costume at me. But thankfully, I duck sideways and it misses me. I call after her and I just say, "Have a good day." And afterwards, the owner asked me if I'm okay, to which I just shrugged and I said, "I think so." I then picked up the costume, tossed it in our lost and found, and then continued on with my day. And the next customer that I checked out actually complimented me on my reflexes. At the end of Halloween, we would always have a little party and our owner would get us a cake. That year, one of my coworkers who was also an artist drew a cartoon of a lobster lady to put on the cake so that we could all devour her. A few weeks after Halloween, when we were going through the lost and found, I picked up the costume and I asked our owner what should I do with it, since no one had ever returned
return for it. He just shrugged and told me to keep it because I had earned it. And I'm honestly just so done dealing with entitled Karens like this because they definitely make my job at customer service an absolute nightmare. Okay, if there's anything I've ever learned from customer service, it's basically that if anybody escalates to the point where they're yelling and screaming, they're only doing that so they can manipulate the situation and try to force you into submission. They're trying to scare you or scream at you and try to put you in a place where like your heart is beating and you're really nervous. And trust me, if you've worked customer service, you know exactly what I'm talking about. And the entitled Karen in this story is no different. She knew for a fact going into that store that she did not buy that stupid costume at that store. And she knew that the only way she would try to get any kind of money out of this place was by freaking out and acting like a psychopath. And that's the only reason she started screaming. Not because there was some kind of actual injustice going on, but because this spoiled brat was not getting her way. So truly, I think you handled this like a pro, and you did exactly what you need to do to get her out of the store. And hopefully nothing like this ever happens to you ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for leaving my best friend at the bar after she grabbed my plate and refused to give it back to me until I apologized to her? Because right now we are not talking to each other, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my friend and I have been friends for over 4 years. For the sake of the story, we'll call her Margaret. Margaret is not her real name. And this incident happened towards the end of February this year. Margaret and I had decided to meet up for drinks and just to catch up after we hadn't seen each other since the beginning of January. Everything was going well on the girls' day out until Margaret started getting tipsy. I had shown her a picture of the Valentine's Day setup my boyfriend had done for me 2 weeks prior. I don't really post on socials anymore, so this was her first time seeing it, and when she saw it, her entire aura completely changed. The conversation started getting confrontational, and Margaret asked why I had not been checking up on her and how I had been putting our friendship on the back burner. She accused me of not being able to balance a boyfriend and my friendships. To add more context, when I had seen Margaret in January, it was during her stay at a mental health center. She had mentioned needing a breather, so I picked her up from the facilities and we spent a day by the beach. After this day, our WhatsApp conversations were sparse with me checking if she's alright and vice versa. Early February, I had a familial issue I was dealing with and completely went quiet on all my acquaintances and friends. But this was excluding my boyfriend, who I basically live with at this point. I guess she saw the Valentine's Day pictures and thought clearly that yes, you were present enough to celebrate that. Now back to the girls' day out. Her mood is now completely flipped. She grabs the plate of food I'm eating from and she says to me, "You're not getting this until you explain why you abandoned me." Now mind you, the people around us at the bar are all looking at us now. I tell her this is very immature and I send her my portion of the bill and then I just leave. She calls me multiple times after I leave and texts me by saying, "What's up?" She eventually sends a text message a couple of days later, apologizing entirely for her behavior. Now I guess my mistake was responding to the text message 4 days later accepting the apology, because we have not spoken ever since then. So am I the jerk here? What should I do? I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think this is the result of your friend being completely drunk and clearly having like unspoken harsh feelings towards you for not checking in with her, which is really not a fair thing to do. Like the phone does work both ways, and I understand that she went through like a mental health crisis or something like that, but that does not give her a license to be like, "Wow, you need to check up on me all the time." It's like, no, what are you talking about? Your triggers and your mental health, that's like your personal responsibility. And sure, maybe someone wasn't checking in on you, but last I checked, they're not your mother. So for her to be like, "You're not getting your food back until you tell me what's going on and why you abandoned me," that is such a toxic thing to say, and it puts the original poster in a corner that they do not deserve to be in. So no, you are not the jerk for getting up and leaving, and honestly, I don't blame you for waiting to respond, because this kind of behavior does not deserve to be rewarded with quick responses. And if she doesn't like that, then she needs to work on herself instead of taking it out on you. Am I the jerk for refusing to take care of my sister when our mother passes away, as my father feels that I need to let her move into my home so that she can stay afloat? But after watching her live basically rent-free with my mother, as well as doing all these things to help out my mother while my sister does nothing, I've decided that I will not be helping in any kind of way. And now my dad is furious with me and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so basically my father expects me to move my sister in and take care of her like a child or something like that. For reference, my sister is 37 years old and she is more than capable of getting a job and becoming an adult, but everyone always allowed her to get away with being childish. She is healthy and mentally all there,
her, but she has just never had a job or license. She lives with our mother, whose health is no longer great. Now, I'm 39 years old, and I have 3 kids, and I work 60 hours a week. I have no plans or interest in raising or taking care of anyone else. I already take our mother to her doctor's appointments and other appointments. I bring her meals and make sure that she is taking her medicines. Recently, my father asked what I was going to do about my sister when our mother passes away. And for context, she had a bad health scare and was in the hospital for weeks. He knew I was bringing groceries to my sister and making sure bills were paid while she was in the hospital. But you know what I said? I told him that she can live on the streets. When I said that, he got upset and said that I can't do that to her. But I told him that I have no plans on taking care of any more people. And that's because I've been doing that since I was a child. I told him that if he didn't want her to be homeless, then he can move her in, which is something his wife won't allow. He thinks that I'm being unreasonable and cruel, but I told him that I don't think she's my problem. So am I the jerk for feeling that way? What should I do? No, you are definitely not the jerk. From what you described, your sister is capable of getting a job, and she is an adult who could get everything done if she needed to. She is more than capable to step up and do what needs to get done so that she can survive. But instead of doing that, she's living with her mother and basically living rent-free. And that's like really not fair for anybody involved. So for your dad to step in and be like, well, what are we gonna do about your sister when your mom passes away? Like, that's really funny to me, because how on earth is that the original poster's problem? Because from the sounds of it, this lady just sounds really lazy. And I know if I was in the original poster's shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that I did not want her there when I get home from deployment? Because right now, she's saying that I don't care about her, claiming that her caring son is completely gone, and that I only care about my wife. Here's what happened. I'm a 21-year-old male, and I've been deployed for the last 10 months, and I will be getting home in 1 week. My wife and I's plans was for her to be the only one to know what date I was coming back, so that when I get leave, we can go back and surprise all of our family and friends. My wife visited home a couple of weeks ago for a family event, and while she was there, she spent a day with my mom and her 2 younger sisters. Now, it's important to know that my mom is very pushy and hates surprises, so much so that me surprising her by coming home would literally just make her mad at me. Because of this, my wife and I knew that we would eventually have to tell her, but we are waiting until the last minute because she would have told my sisters if she knew my date. Well, while my wife was there, my mom pushed and pushed, telling her that she wouldn't speak to her, she wouldn't let the girls go places, and that she had to know so that she could take days off work. Well, my wife gave her a week range of my leave, which is a couple of weeks after I get back, so that way she could just request the time off. Well, my mom texted me today telling me that she would be here for the welcome home when our plane lands. I asked if she cleared this with my wife, seeing as she apparently planned to stay with us in our 1-bedroom apartment, and she said no. I then asked if the girls knew and were coming, and she said no again. Now, my mom has done a few things that presses between my wife and I, so I just lost it on her. I told her that I wouldn't be giving her the date that I fly in, and that if I wanted her there, I would want my sisters there as well. I stopped there until she started complaining that she was a single mom who raised me on her own, and that I should want to see her first. That's when I told her that I didn't want her in my house at all when I first get home. I am a married grown man now. I don't need my mom. I want to see and spend time with my wife first and foremost. She pressed me further by saying, I've been here for you since you were born. She's been here for only 4 years. With her eventually leading to trash talking my wife, saying that she doesn't even have a real job and doesn't contribute. My wife is a nanny while she is in school, and she gets paid well, so she absolutely does contribute more than enough. And this is where I may be the jerk. I told my mom that I was tired of her badgering and that I wanted to come home to my wife and be alone in our home with our pets. My wife and I would not want to host her, and we wanted the house to ourselves. Well, when I said that, my mom cried, and she sent me long paragraph text messages every few hours about how she doesn't know where her caring son went, and how I have no care for my family at all. So I need to know, am I the jerk for responding in the way that I did? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, I do not think that you're the jerk in the slightest, because seriously, it is so important to stand up to your mom. She sounds incredibly pushy and very disrespectful, and it really seems like she wants to control your life and your situation entirely. So honestly, good for you for saying something, because this is a conversation that was going to happen eventually, and I think that it was better to get it out of the way now than to wait until it really gets bad. Am I the jerk for being a little uncomfortable on contributing a lot of money for my brother's baby baby shower. Because right now, what he is asking is completely out of line. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 30-year-old female, and I have a brother who is 33 years old. He and his husband are in the process of adopting 2 babies from 2 different women. My brother makes around $95,000 a year, and his husband makes about $80,000, with the both of them being teachers in a high-paying district. I'm single, and I'm also a teacher, but I make about $60,000 a year, and I just bought a house last year. I do not get paid over the summer, and I'm in 2 weddings coming up, which also takes a lot of money. My brother and his husband are understandably very excited and want to have a baby shower to help get stuff for possibly 2 babies. One baby is due September 26th, and the other is October 15th. Now, here's where things get a bit dicey. They want to have a big fancy baby shower with possibly 100 guests or even more. He said it will be like a mini wedding, and even got into a fight with his mother-in-law about the cost of a venue and expecting them to shell out the money for it. She called him spoiled, and he got very offended. And of course, I want to help out as much as I can. I offered to make the invitations and to help organize stuff, but as I talk with my brother, I realize just how much he's expecting me and his sister-in-law to contribute, since all the parents and themselves are paying over $6,500 for the venue, the food, and the drinks. From what I understand, he mentioned that he would cover decorations, centerpieces, favors, setting up, doing the seating chart, and all this other stuff, which is reasonable. But then he started mentioning mini bottles of champagne for each person as a favor, as well as having a photo booth and other extras just like that on top of a gift. When I said all of that is a lot of money, he said to me, "Just be glad I'm not asking you to contribute to paying for the venue like I was originally gonna do." Now, of course, I want to spoil my nieces and help out as much as I can. And maybe it's that they just expect me to pull out all this money without asking that's really bothering me. I've also always been the money conscious one, and even helped bail my brother out of credit card debt a few years ago. So am I the jerk in this situation for feeling uncomfortable? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because it sounds like your brother and his husband are going well above and beyond what a baby shower should be. And for him to expect that his family's gonna sponsor that and have some big lavish party, that in my opinion is so unacceptable. That's so burdensome on everybody around him, and it is completely unfair. So you know what? If I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way. I would be upset that he's basically asking me to shell out money and that I somehow am responsible for his stupid party, because that is not fair and you definitely do not deserve that. Am I the jerk for telling my mom that I can't trust her anymore after she goes out of her way to take things out of my closet and then donate them without my permission? Here's what happened. Earlier today, I had an argument with my mom, which led to me telling her I couldn't trust her, in which she called me rude and said that I had an overreaction. Now, for years, my mom has had this bad habit of secretly donating our clothes without telling us. Sometimes it was stuff that she thought was too small for us, but most of the time, it was just clothing that she didn't like or just didn't want us to wear anymore. For example, I really like professional wrestling, and I have received many t-shirts of my favorite wrestlers as gifts over the years. Yet the only one I still have is from this past November. My mom doesn't understand why I love wrestling, probably because I'm a girl. And even when I've tried to ask where my merchandise is gone, she just always shooed me off. The donation bag would always be in her closet, so if I noticed I was missing an item or clothing, odds are it would be in the donation bag. Since as early as middle school, when I started noticing that she would take my clothes, I always asked her to please check with me before donating any of my clothes. But of course, she didn't do that, and she continued picking things out of the laundry, or even go as far as going into my drawers and closet to take things. A few months ago, I found a really nice dress of mine that I bought in a donation bag, and I just blew up, screaming and begging her to ask me anytime she would donate clothing. This seemed to really get to her, as she stopped taking things until earlier today. In the car with her today, I looked in the back seat and I noticed the donation bag, but peeking out was the arm of a sweater I had literally bought last week. I grabbed the bag and noticed my last remaining wrestling t-shirt, as well as about 5 pairs of socks and even some bowls and plates I had bought for my apartment next year. We began arguing, with her not giving me a clear reason why those were in the donation bag, and I told her that because she went back on her word, I literally just couldn't trust her anymore. And I think it was a valid reaction, but she disagrees. So am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and honestly, the fact that your mom is taking your stuff and giving it away, all without your permission by the way, is completely out of line. And if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. Am I the jerk for outing my cousin on social media, stating that she owes me over $2,000
$2,000 after she claimed that she was super successful in her life. Here's what happened. So my cousin, who we will call Deborah, cost me over $2,000 in our interstate holiday last year. She accidentally and recklessly slammed the door of our rental car into the neighboring parked car. The rental car was under my name, and consequently, I was liable for the excess payment. It's been over 8 months and she has yet to pay me back. Deborah argued that the rental car was shared amongst all 7 cousins, and that accidents were a part of the risk of sharing a rental vehicle. Given that all the cousins had initially agreed to split the cost of the trip, this $2,000 should also be split. Now, some of the cousins were on board, but others were not, and I definitely wasn't. I didn't agree to split the cost of entirely avoidable and reckless mistakes. Either way, because we couldn't come to an agreement, what ended up happening was that no one has paid me a cent. After a few months of hounding Deborah and largely getting ignored, she broke down in tears, claiming that she's financially struggling at the moment and can barely make ends meet. For context, Deborah is an accountant at one of the country's biggest accounting firms, and she has to be making at least $100,000 a year. So she isn't struggling financially. She's just really bad with her finances. But whatever, I'll just let it slide. And honestly, I forgot about the $2,000 until last weekend. Deborah posted a photo of an expensive necklace with a caption saying, "Hard work pays off. Success isn't easy, but it is shiny." I looked up the necklace and it cost about $880. Well, I responded by saying, if you were half as successful as you are pretending to be, you'd pay me back the $2,000 that you owe me. Now, honestly, I wasn't thinking. I was just acting out of anger, but unexpectedly, people started reacting to my comment, leaving their own comment saying stuff like, "Oh, Deborah owes you money as well, huh?" As well as people saying, "Oh, I see Deborah hasn't changed a bit." But honestly, that wasn't my intention. But I would be lying if I say I didn't find it funny. Now, Deborah deleted her post several hours later, but hasn't said a word to me ever since. However, she must have complained to the other cousins because 2 of our cousins reached out and said that I went too far and that I should have kept the matter within the family, which is easy for them to say because they're not the ones out $2,000. Now, before I let my anger get the better of me, am I the jerk in this situation or am I in the right here? Because right now, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk for calling her out because honestly, it seems like she's done this to a lot of other people. This is literally her reaping exactly what she sowed, because if she had just paid you back, all of this could have been avoided. So no, you did not do anything wrong, and honestly, I don't blame you for calling her out in the slightest. My entitled father, in a fit of rage, canceled all of our hotel reservations at the last minute after most of the family came into town for my aunt's wedding, while also expecting all of us to sleep on the floor, despite never providing blankets, mattresses, or sleeping bags of any kind. And I'm honestly so blown away by my father's entitlement that I have now decided that I will never trust my father with anything ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was only a few years ago, but this is literally the most jerk thing that my entitled father has ever done. So my aunt, my father's younger sister, was getting married a few years ago. She lives in a major metro area and was getting married downtown. My father generously offered me, myself, my grandmother, and my brother separate hotel rooms to house us and our respective spouses within walking distance to the venue. No renting a car, no stress. It would be an easy in and out once we arrived in the city. We would just have to get ourselves there and he would take care of the rest. I want to point out that my dad is financially secure and none of this would have put him in dire straits. My brother and his wife flew in and I was going to fly, but I live within a day's driving distance of my aunt. And while initially I was going to fly, at the last minute something made me change my mind. I told my dad I was going to drive and he said to me, "What in the world are you doing that for?" But honestly, I wanted to have access to a car, and I guess as a safety measure, I threw in the trunk a sleeping mat, a blanket, and a pillow. And I guess I just had a feeling that things were gonna go bad. So me, my dad, and my brother and his wife are meeting my dad at my grandmother's house when all of us get into town, which is a full 25 miles away from where my aunt is getting married in a few days. No one has rented a car and my grandmother doesn't drive. So my car is the only car that we all have, but it's totally fine. We're all moving to the hotel soon, right? Well, I couldn't be more wrong. My father calls the hotel to ask about parking since I have the car that he insisted we didn't need, and the hotel informs him that you need to pay if you want to park. Well, my entitled father finds this to be the last straw, even though this was the only straw. All our plans are coordinated, but for some reason, upon hearing that the parking isn't free, he proceeds to cancel all of our hotel reservations. And he does this just like that on the spot. And this is all because of the cost of parking, which is something I would have happily paid for, but no, instead he cancels everything. I was taken back at this, and I asked where he expected everybody to sleep. My father then pointed to the floor, there. You, your brother, and your brother's wife can sleep right there. Now, I need to point out that my grandmother lives alone, and my dad was in the guest room. Other than that, she has no accommodation, she has no extra pillows, bedding, or anything like that. The living room had a chair and a table. I mean, her house only had 2 rooms. None of us are kids anymore, and we would all just literally be sleeping on the floor. And this is all after being promised that we would be taken care of. My dad is a massive jerk in general, so a part of me was not surprised by this at all. And I think that's why in the back of my mind, I drove and brought supplies with me. So now we had to scramble. I ended up driving my father to the car rental place because now we had to cart everybody around, and I spent 3 days hauling everybody about. My brother and his wife were also lucky to buy their own reservations at another hotel nearby, so I carted them around to and fro, and my father and I drove everybody to the rehearsal dinner, the wedding, the reception, and the breakfast on Sunday for opening the gifts. I ended up being the only one sleeping on the floor in the living room, but I took it in stride while making a mental note to never trust my father ever again. He's not really a great guy, but for some reason this was like the worst thing he's ever done. And I guess this is because he basically said, "I have everything taken care of, just show up." But then he turns around and makes everybody scramble for everything at the last minute. And I'm honestly so sickened by his behavior, and I really hope I never deal with this kind of treatment ever again. Wow, your dad is a massive jerk, and he seems like the most sensitive man on planet Earth. You mean to tell me that he canceled all of your hotel reservations, all because you brought your own car to this wedding event? Like seriously, there's no reason for that. In fact, the only reason I can think of is because he wanted to have full control over you and your siblings the entire time. He wanted you to be completely reliant on him, so he could basically like lord over you the entire time. Like that is insane behavior in my opinion, and the fact that he did that under the guise of, "Oh, this is gonna be easy for you guys. There's gonna be no stress and it's gonna be so simple." Like that alone is really misleading, and clearly you can see his intentions were completely the opposite. Because just imagine if you did something he didn't like, and then he not only canceled your hotel reservations, but also he refused to get you where you needed to go in his car. So yeah, your dad's a massive jerk for what he did, because he overreacted big time, and you and your family did not deserve that in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. An entitled old jerk blocks my car from leaving my parking spot, all because he was so obsessed about the tiny car that I drive. But after I nearly sprayed that guy in the face with bear spray, this entitled old jerk finally gets the picture and runs off. And I'm honestly still shaken up, and I seriously hope I never deal with anyone like that ever again. Here's what happened. So I drive a small electric car. It's fully paid for, it gets me from point A to point B, and it's honestly just right for me. I went grocery shopping, and when I was leaving, this entitled old man yells out and says to me, "Watch out in that tiny car." Now, when he said that, I completely ignored him, and I just kept packing my groceries. I then hear footsteps and a closer, loud voice screaming from behind me. He says again, "You need to watch out in that tiny car." And once again, I just completely ignore him. My car is parked ahead, and he's not in a car. I mean, nobody's driving anything. I just want to get home and make some breakfast. So I get in my car, and when I look up, I see the entitled old man in his car quite literally beginning to pull in behind my car. At this point, he is idling and hanging out the window, yelling at me that once again, I need to watch out in that tiny car. But just like before, I just ignored him. He then steps out of his car, which was still parked right behind me, by the way, and walked over to the window. Now, at this point, I open my glove box and I grab my can of bear spray. The entitled old man gets out of his car, starts walking towards the driver's side window, and says to me, "Can't you hear me? Watch out in your tiny car. Why are you driving a car so small?" I then point the can at him through the window, and I scream, "Back off and get away from me." When I said this, he didn't move. So I hit the panic alarm on my key. By now, there's a few other shoppers staring at this situation, but not really doing anything to intervene. But regardless, I felt somewhat safer knowing other people were seeing this go down. The entitled old man finally gets the hint and gets back in his car. He then yells at me, "I was just trying to help out," and then he speeds off into the distance. I'm still rattled and extremely pissed off. I should have just sprayed that idiot without saying anything. The guy was in his 70s and thought that planting his car in order to block me from exiting a parking spot was somehow going to be helpful to me. But for some old entitled jerk, him saying that he just wanted to help looks and feels incredibly sketchy, and I really hope I never deal with anyone in this manner ever again. Yeah, it really seemed like that old man was really just asking to get sprayed in the face with bear mace. What in the world was he thinking, walking up to somebody like that and being like, "Oh, not only am I going to block you from leaving, but I'm also going to approach your
window and scream these crazy delusional things. It's like, yeah, I'm aware. I know that I have a tiny car. It's not that big of a deal. He doesn't have to literally follow you into the parking lot, block your exit with his car, and then start pestering you through your window. So truly, that guy was out of his mind, and he absolutely deserved to get sprayed in the face, especially if he's going to be bothering you in that kind of way. Am I the jerk for taking away my brother's +1 invite to my wedding after he tries to bring along somebody who's incredibly toxic and a person who always makes a scene no matter what she does? Because right now he is very upset with me, and at this point I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying that I know I am the jerk, but I need to know how bad it was. My brother is 29 years old, and he has been with someone who we will call Leah for about 2 years. Leah is not her real name, and for the record, we like Leah a lot. She is super nice. I am getting married next April, and I sent an invite to my brother's apartment. We decided to send invites to households and not individuals. For example, our aunt received an invite for her family and not for each individual. Last Thursday, we met at my parents' place, and it was just the core family members there. While we were there, I asked my brother about Leah's dietary restrictions. I know that she is vegetarian for health reasons, and that she cannot have certain raw vegetables. He said that she wasn't going to come, and that he was taking his girl best friend Amanda instead. Amanda is also not her real name. Now, their relationship is very weird. Amanda has always been stringing my brother along, in my opinion, and he always denies having feelings for her, but honestly, I think he's completely full of it. Amanda would date other guys, blow off my brother, then when things were on the decline with her partners, she would be attached to him once again. Her last boyfriend broke up with her right around the time my brother, his then ex-girlfriend, Amanda, and her ex were supposed to travel to Spain. So what did my idiot brother do? He went with Amanda alone because Amanda was uncomfortable with his ex-girlfriend. And obviously, he acted blindsided when his girlfriend broke up with him. I didn't even say anything anymore because it's all just so weird. So when he said that, I asked if Leah already had other plans, but my brother said that Amanda had asked if she could come because it would be an opportunity to finally see the old gang, as we were in the same friend group in high school. Well, I told him that I would have invited Amanda if I wanted her there. But here's the thing, Amanda is mean and cold. She always makes disparaging comments about other girls, and at every event around 1 hour in, she will make some sort of scene that either has her running away crying or sitting mad at a table, telling everyone to leave her alone, and then make a cryptic comment about something hurting her. Well, as a result, I told my brother I was revoking his +1 and that Amanda was not coming to our wedding. He then accused me of being misogynistic, all because I don't understand opposite gender friendships, which is just total BS. My husband has a female childhood friend who is his best woman. I love her too, and she has been amazing, and she respects boundaries. She always includes me and made a huge effort when I started dating my fiance to integrate me into the friend group. Anyways, I said that my decision was final. He could take it or leave it, but I would be inviting Leah myself because I like her. He then screamed at me and told me to keep out of his business, but I said that he needs to get rid of his weird feelings towards Amanda, and at this point, he's very mad at me. So am I the jerk in this scenario? What should I do? No, to be completely honest, I don't think you're the jerk at all, and I think your brother's a complete moron for not bringing Leah to your wedding. For starters, I think the main issue here is that you do not want Amanda at your wedding, and that in my opinion is completely reasonable. It makes perfect sense that you would not want her coming along, especially with the way she's acted in the past. And I really feel like this has nothing to do with your brother either. Like even by herself, I feel like Amanda would probably cause some kind of problem at your wedding, and that is not something I would even want to begin to entertain in the slightest. Like seriously, you just want a drama-free wedding, so for him to be like, no, I'm not going to bring my girlfriend that the family likes, I'm going to bring this one girlfriend that I'm denying having feelings for, despite all these other instances of him basically proving that yes, he does still have feelings for her. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for not wanting Amanda at your wedding, because at the end of the day, this is your wedding, and if you don't want her showing up, then that's exactly the way that it's gotta be. An entitled jerk demands that I buy him his cigarettes after I helped a kid pay for his chocolate milk that he couldn't quite afford. And when I told him that I wasn't gonna do that, this guy lost his mind, resulting in him getting denied service and eventually kicked out of my convenience store. Here's what happened. So I used to work at a little convenience store in a very small town. Every customer was a regular. I had this one kid who was about 12 years old, and he came every school day on his bike. He bought a chocolate milk and a thing of cheese crackers every day. The total at the time was $2.08 after tax, and the kid always paid in change, almost like it came straight out of his piggy bank. One day, he came in with this look that said he really had a bad day. He shuffled through the store and grabbed his usual stuff, but was short about 10 cents. He went to put his crackers up, but I pulled a dime out of my pocket, I smiled at him and said that it's all good and that he can enjoy his snack. Well, when I did that, the kid thanked me and he left looking quite a bit happier. The next customer was a regular as well, but he was a man in his 40s wanting his usual pack of cigarettes. I ring him up and I tell him the total, but he smiles and says, "Well, aren't you gonna pay for it?" I tell him no, I'm not gonna do that, but he proceeded to yell at me that if I'm buying customer stuff, then I should have to pay for his cigarettes. At this point, there is a line of customers behind him that saw what had happened with the kid, but I told him that there's a difference between helping a kid who is slightly short for an after-school snack and a full-grown man trying to force a woman to buy his smokes. He then starts yelling at me about favoritism, and I just look at him in the eyes and I say, "Yeah, so what?" He proceeds to yell insults at me before I simply grab his cigarettes and I put them back on the shelf. The guy then says to me, "What are you doing? I'm buying those." I responded by saying, "Not today and not from me. Please leave." He then starts to reach across the counter when I step back away from him. Now, it's important to note that I was about 7 months pregnant at the time, and stepping back revealed my pregnant belly. I'm short, so the counter typically hid this feature. I wasn't doing it to reveal anything, I was just getting out of his reach. At this point, the customers behind him almost started a riot about him attacking a pregnant woman for helping a kid. And right after that, this guy was no longer a regular. He left in a huff, and every customer behind him started an after-school snack fund for that kid. It started with the first guy putting an extra $1 on the counter for the kid, and it just kept going till I set a jar. And as a result, the kid had free chocolate milk for almost a month before I had to go on maternity leave. And I'm honestly just proud that we were still able to help that kid, even though that other jerk tried to make such a big fuss out of it. Wow, that guy's a massive jerk. Who in their right mind would make a big deal about that and try to be like, "Ooh, if you're gonna pay for that kid's stuff, you gotta pay for mine as well." Like, this guy does know he's a 40-year-old man sitting there being like, "Buy my cigarettes, do it right now." The original poster literally just gave a dime to help this kid out, and this guy really wants to act like this is the end of the world. Like, seriously, that is such awful behavior, and I really hope that this guy is completely ashamed of himself. Am I the jerk for refusing to go back to my parents' house, all because of my little sister who lives there, and for the way that she's been treating me? Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I'm in college, and when the semester finished a couple of weeks ago, I had planned to stay with some friends, but my parents told me that they wanted me to come home so bad, and that I should spend time with my family. Namely, it would be my parents and my 15-year-old sister. So I went home for summer break, but I really did not want to be there because I feel like my parents spoil my younger sister, and I find it so annoying, and her attitude can be really annoying as well. But they are still my family, so I'm trying to do what I need to do. Well, it lasted 3 days when I found out my sister had put a camera in my room. I was so mad, and my sister told me I was being such a drama queen and that there's nothing wrong with getting some footage of me. She seriously tried to claim that it was no different to home movies. My parents were telling me to calm down while I confronted my sister, and they acted like she was a baby who didn't get what she was doing. But she is old enough to know so much better, and she's old enough to be taught at the very least. I ended up deleting all the stuff I found on me and my sister's laptop, and then I went to my friend's place like I had originally planned. My parents thought that I was just gone for the night, but I told them that I wasn't coming back. They gave me a few more days, and when they realized I was serious, they told me I need to come back home sometimes, and in the heat of the anger I'm still feeling, I told them I won't go back in their house as long as my sister still lives with them. Now, what I really should have said, and what I do feel, is that there's no point for me to go back to them anymore when they value her way more than me, and they don't seem to care about me in the slightest. Because seriously, acting like it was no big deal for what she did is just so incredibly gross. My parents told me that I shouldn't talk that way with my younger sister, and that I'm throwing a toddler's temper tantrum instead of responding to all of this like an adult would. So honestly, am I the jerk for refusing to go back? Because right now I am still so angry with them, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, this story really upsets me because this is not okay. I don't care who you are, you cannot secretly record somebody against their will. That is incredibly sketchy, there's no good excuse for that, and honestly, I just cannot believe anybody in their right mind would ever justify that. Your parents are sitting there acting like, wow, you're just so overreacting right now. You're throwing a toddler's temper tantrum, you need to calm down and talk like an adult. And it's like, what are you talking about? Any reasonable adult would be like, oh yeah, your 15-year-old sister is grounded for like a year for doing that. And by the way, this is not the same thing as having a home movie. This is literally your sister violating your privacy and also doing something illegal depending on where you live. Because for example, if you live in the United States like I do, I'm willing to bet in most places that if you record somebody secretly against their will, I'm pretty sure that's illegal and you can get in serious trouble if you pursue that. So for your parents to be like, oh wow,
you're just getting so worked up over this. That is crazy in my opinion, and that is not okay. And it really does prove that they spoil their younger sister, and they clearly feel that she could do no wrong. So no, you are not the jerk for not going back, because if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would go back there, because any semblance of trust I would have in them is completely shattered, and I just don't think that you should have to deal with that in the slightest. Am I the jerk for telling my younger siblings that I'm not their dad, and that they need to stop acting like I'm their parent? Here's what happened. I'm a 22-year-old male, and my parents had me at 19 years old, and I was the only child for 6 years. They then had 3 kids back to back, who are now 16, 15, and 14. My parents were never the most attentive parents, but they did a better job with my younger siblings than they did with me. But at some point, while my siblings were still really young, they started to come to me like I was an adult instead of going to my mom and dad, and they just kind of let it happen. Now, they were still there, but my siblings would ask me to make them food, or they'd ask me for money, even though I didn't have any back then, or they'd want me to help them with homework, or they'd come to me if they're struggling to do their chores. Needless to say, it got annoying very quickly, and I asked my parents to step in so that I wasn't always saying no, or having a sibling throw a temper tantrum, all because I wasn't acting like more of an adult than the parents in the house who were supposed to be there to do stuff for them. My parents were there for the basics, and if my siblings didn't come to me, they would deal with stuff, but otherwise they seemed glad to not have to deal with all of the parenting. But they still were not as good with me as they were with my siblings. It was some things like prioritizing supporting my siblings instead of me, or making a big effort for their birthdays but not mine. Christmas was another time it was super obvious because my siblings got gifts that they wanted, but I would get gifts that I just really needed. Stuff like hygiene products or socks or even underwear. I brought it up to my parents when I was 15 years old, and they used the excuse that they had me at 19, so they just didn't know how to connect with me in the same way, and they didn't have the means to provide for me like they did my siblings. When I learned how to drive and started working, my siblings relying on me got worse. They wanted me to drive them places, give them money, they wanted me to take them to school and pick them up. They would expect me to buy birthday gifts for their friends and take them shopping for that stuff. My youngest sibling even asked me to be a parent chaperone on a field trip when I was only 16 years old. It was all so suffocating, and my siblings could not be spoken to about it. They just wanted me to be the dad, and in fact, they even called me dad sometimes. I was desperate to get out, and COVID almost completely messed me up, but I was very lucky that my girlfriend's family let me move in with them. Once I left, I tried to better enforce my boundaries and create a distance, but they still wanted me there, and they would cry down the phone about me leaving and not being there for stuff. Now that my siblings are teenagers, I tried to talk to them about it again, but my sister, who's 16 years old, said that I had to do these things because I'm supposed to. I asked her why I was supposed to do anything, and she said because you're basically our dad, and my brothers even agreed with her. Now, I will admit it, this really upset me, and I told them in a firm and angry tone that I am not their dad, and they needed to stop acting like I'm the parent of the house, because in reality, I'm their sibling. I'm the oldest for sure, but I'm not their parent and I'm not responsible for them. But they said that I was a jerk and that I should like taking care of them. So I'm honestly so frustrated, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. First of all, I don't think you're the jerk at all for telling them exactly what's up and explaining to them that no, you are not their parent. But also, your actual parents are the worst people on planet Earth. How are they not more involved in their kids' lives? They've basically put you in a corner and forced you to be the substitute parent that they never were. And that, in my opinion, is completely uncalled for. So no, you are not the jerk, because this is a responsibility that you should have never been responsible for from the beginning. An entitled Karen blocks the university gate, causing a massive pileup as she refused to get out of the way. Things got so bad that she even blocked an ambulance from getting into the university, as she felt completely justified to stay exactly where she was, regardless of what any of us were trying to tell her. And I've honestly never met anybody so entitled in my life, and I seriously hope that she got in trouble for blocking an ambulance in the way that she did. Here's what happened. To start things out, I live in a university. One evening, my friends and I were going to the nearby mall in a cab, and we decided to take the back gate, which was the closest to it, and it's near the professor's flats. The only vehicles that are allowed from that gate bear the university sticker, and almost always belong to the professors or their family members. When we reached the gate, one woman was sitting with her hands folded on the steering wheel, looking very distressed, and a few guards were standing at her window. My first guess was that she had some problems with the identification and is being asked to take the main gate instead. There was a small line of vehicles behind her, so I got out of the cab so that I could request the guards to ask her to move to the side. Well, the guards told me that she's not moving, so I went up and I asked her myself politely. It was then that she looked at me and said that she won't move until she gets her problem resolved. I told her, well, whatever your problem is, you're holding up delivery guys and cab drivers who are on duty. I told her a bit more angrily to please just move to the side, and I kept repeating myself to move her vehicle to the side, but she just kept ignoring me. I clicked the picture of her license plate, and I said that I would be reporting her to security, even though the guards were going to do it anyways. I asked her if she was a professor, and she just didn't respond, and instead she asked me if I was a student. My male friend had joined me now, and she started giving her explanation to my friend, completely ignoring me. Her explanation was that she had bumped into the car in front of her, and somehow that was the guard's fault. It was a little chaotic with horns, and I couldn't hear her properly, but this was about how much my friend and I could gather. She asked me again if I'm a student, and I said yes. She said it's a matter of our security too, so she's not gonna move. During this commotion, an ambulance had reached the gate, since we do have an in-house hospital. So if the ambulance was leaving the campus, it was a serious case. She hesitated when she saw the ambulance, then finally started moving to the side slowly, as if she was still making up her mind about what to do or how to extend her tantrum. But the ambulance did not wait and immediately moved towards another gate, with the rest of us quickly leaving afterwards. And while we didn't wait to find out if she got reported, I really hope that she did, because she blocked an ambulance from getting through, and that is something that definitely should be punished. Wow, imagine being so worked up over like a fender bender of some kind that you not only block the gate from anybody getting in, but you're also slow to move for an ambulance that's trying to get through during an emergency. Like seriously, what was this lady's problem? For starters, it doesn't sound like that big of a deal, but also refusing to move for an ambulance is a major crime, and that is not something I would ever want on my record. So I'm right there with the original poster. Hopefully they did get punished for the way they acted, because if they seriously blocked an ambulance and thought they were justified in some way, then they truly are not only messed up, but they deserve to get in trouble with the police in some kind of way.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to AmITheJerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
An entitled rich Karen lies to my employer and essentially throws me under the bus for the first time ever in the 3 years I've worked for my company. Here's what happened. So I live in a high tourist area with many elite and expensive hotels. Working for a company that provides in-room babysitting for families staying at hotels in the area, I was scheduled to babysit for a family staying at the most famous, expensive hotel in the area. It costs about $1,500 a night to stay at this hotel. This particular hotel has valet parking only and has a discount for babysitters for $10. Guests are required to pay for the sitter's parking, stated in the company contract and confirmation emails. I arrive at the hotel, and the mother gives me the laydown of the kids' care. After this, I kindly remind her of the $10 charge for the parking, and when I said this, she seems surprised and claims the sitter the night before never mentioned a parking fee. Now, the sitting arrangement seems to be going smoothly an hour in, and the mom texts me that there is another child she wishes to add to the group, and she's aware of the upcharge and its upholding, regardless of how long the child is in my care per the contract. This is in the contract so that the bill is easier to calculate, and parents cannot claim a child was never in our care. The child comes up to the room with the parent, and I play with them for maybe about an hour. Then the child says they want to go back to their parents. So I text the mom, and the parent comes to collect the added child. The sit ends, and I give them the invoice, and I get in my car, and I'm informed that my parking is already paid for. So I assume that everything's fine. Well, about a week later, I get a call from my boss. She said she's never gotten a complaint about me and only gotten compliments, and she was really surprised by what she heard. My boss asked me what happened with parking, and I told her I gave the speech as normal. She said to me, well, however you phrased it, it made the family very uncomfortable, because apparently you snubbed yourself out of a pretty big tip. My boss chose to compensate the sit, which was not the best idea in my opinion. In my 3 years with the company, I had never gotten a complaint and have always gotten pretty handsome tips. And until this moment, I've never had any issue with a parent complaining about parking fees. And there are hotels who charge $50 for my parking. They usually are totally fine with a charge and understand that it's not fair for the sitter to pay for their own parking if they are working. Some guests even pay for parking and tip really well. But the stinginess of this parent was mind-blowing, and it's made me question everything moving forward. Yeah, it's crazy to me that these people would stay at a 5-star hotel, but they can't cough up $10 so that their sitter can show up and do their job. Like seriously, what is wrong with these people? $10 is not that much, especially with how much money they're spending on this hotel. And it really sucks that your boss basically rewarded their awful behavior, because you did everything right. You told them exactly what the charge was gonna be, but then this entitled parent turns around and tries to act like, oh my god, this was so awful. You made us so uncomfortable by saying that. So overall, that's just really unfair for you, and I really hope next time your boss has your back and chooses to believe you over these entitled parents. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for not letting my spoiled, rotten cousin take my PC on my birthday that I'd saved up hundreds of dollars just so I could get for myself? Because right now, my family is giving me a hard time, demanding that I hand over my new PC to my spoiled, rotten cousin. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I live in a rich family that has got no issues when it comes to money. My cousin, who is 7 years old, is very spoiled. He is the golden child, yet my parents are very strict about me and not him. This event happened a month ago, and it was my birthday, and I had bought a PC with my own lunch money, which I have been saving for the past 3 years, hence why I don't get a lot of lunch money because the build was $300, and yet it was still miles better than my old PC, which had components in it that were older than me. I had the stuff come in the mail, which is 2 minutes away from my school, which also meant I had to get them in one of the breaks. Anyways, when I went from school to the restaurant that I would be having my birthday party at, I got greeted by my entire family. When I brought the bag with my PC components, the first question that I got was them asking if this was for my cousin. And even my mom said that to me. Now, if that's not favoritism, I don't know what is. After I told them that this was going to be the new PC that I was building, my mom told me that she would ground me, but my dad said otherwise. He told everyone that I couldn't replace my relic of a PC because they were spending all my money for my cousin. My mom even started taking my dad's money because apparently my cousin didn't have enough stuff already. Well, my aunt demanded that PC because her son doesn't have one, and that I should stick with my old one. I had to put my old GPU in the oven like a month ago just for it to function properly. It got that bad. I said that if they were spending all their money on my cousin, then they should have thought about getting him a PC with today's standards. But my dad doubled down, saying that he has wanted to build me my own PC, but he couldn't because my other relatives were spending his money on my cousin. And after he said that, they finally decided to shut up. After that, my cousin threw a temper tantrum, all because he wasn't getting my PC. And my mom asked me if I was happy for what I had done. And you know what? I told her that I was, because thankfully they didn't spend my own lunch money on him. After dinner, my family gave my presents to me, and most of the stuff that was given to me was cheap gaming stuff from the local tech store. And they do this trick where they buy cheap stuff and they say it's more expensive. Now, since I'm really into gaming, I can easily tell if a gaming peripheral is cheap or not. After that, I usually check the stuff on the internet, and they are most likely $5 each. But out of everybody, my dad bought me a phone. It was an iPhone 6 Plus, but either way, I was so happy. My previous phone was an iPhone 4, and this was a leap ahead. However, when my cousin saw that phone, he threw a tantrum and demanded a phone of his own, and my relatives all seemed to agree with him. They then jumped on my dad about how he wasn't being fair with only me having a phone, but we both told him that he got an iPhone 13 Pro Max for his birthday, and that they had no right to say that, which thankfully made them shut up. After this, my mom told me that I would never be celebrating my birthday ever again. So seriously, am I the jerk in this scenario for saving up for my own PC? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, it really seems like your dad is the only person on your side. Everybody else is so obsessed with your cousin that they can't see how toxic and obnoxious they're being. Like, they're actually complaining about the stuff you got for yourself on your birthday, and they seriously tried to demand your PC on your birthday and be like, oh, you can keep your other one, your cousin deserves this one instead of you. Like, what is wrong with these people? Do they not see that what they're doing right now is very inappropriate? It's truly upsetting that they would treat you like this on your birthday, no less, and I'm really sorry that you had to deal with this. Because obviously, no, you are definitely not the jerk. Because the way they're spoiling your cousin at your expense, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. My biological father thinks that he's entitled to a relationship with me after he spent decades being a complete deadbeat. And at this point, I'm considering not talking to him anymore, or at least limiting my communication down to the bare minimum. Here's what happened. So I called my biological dad yesterday for Father's Day, and I did this out of obligation. And I wished I could say I was surprised by how the conversation went, but somehow it still left me completely befuddled. For a bit of backstory, my parents divorced when I was 6 years old. My dad has either been absent for months at a time, or just generally a really big jerk. I have countless memories of him not showing up when he was supposed to, as well as being yelled at, or hearing the racist garbage that would spew out of his mouth, and him trying to get me to agree with him. Needless to say, ever since my stepmom passed away last year, I have completely limited any contact, verging on me going no contact entirely. Anyways, yesterday he told me, "You need to get over the stuff I said to you 20 years ago. I was drinking, I was doing substances, and I was gambling. I've always been there for you, and it's just the way I was raised. I don't know what your mother has been saying to you, but I love you, and I want you to be happy no matter what, so just get over it. And believe it or not, that was my apology for over 2 decades of just terrible parenting. Like, in what world does he think that he's been there for me? My stepdad did everything my biological dad was supposed to do. He took my sister and I out on trips so that we could bond. He drove me to college and helped me carry and unpack my entire dorm room. He bought me my first TV when I moved out of my parents' house for the first time. My dad's newest thing is ignoring the fact that I'm dating a woman, all because it's how he was raised, let alone the fact that she isn't the same race as me. At this point, I feel like I'll say hello to him at family events, but other than that, I definitely do not see us ever having a real relationship. Wow, your dad's a piece of garbage. So this guy neglects you and treats you terribly for 2 decades, and his apology is, oh man, you just need to get over it. It's the way I was raised, I just can't help it. Almost as if he's demanding that you be the bigger person. But it's like, dude, what are you talking about? The original poster had an awful childhood because of this man. And instead of just saying, I'm sorry for the way I treated you growing up, he literally just justified everything that he did. He completely dismissed any kind of accountability, and he tried to make it seem like it wasn't that big of a deal, and even tried to lie to you and be like, oh yeah, I was there for you. Like, that is so disturbing and so disgusting, because you know the truth. You know exactly how he treated you. You know for a fact that he was not a good father, and that he did not step up when it counted. So truly, I don't blame you if you don't have any kind of real relationship with him, because based on what you described, this guy absolutely sounds like a deadbeat. Am I the jerk for refusing to go to my parents' second wedding, all because their first divorce absolutely ruined my teenage years? Because right now they're begging me to come back and be a part of their wedding, both as a bridesmaid and as someone who would give a speech. And at this point, I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, this entire situation really upsets me. I'm a 23-year-old female, and I've been low contact with both of my parents for a while. The backstory is that they got divorced when I was 13, and it was a drawn-out nightmare, and it was a pretty awful time in my life. To be fair, I know they tried to not drag me into it, but I still ended up having to live with the chaos on top of some otherwise rough teenage stuff, and the whole thing permanently changed my feelings about both of them. I do love them, but I just can't see them the same way as before, and they can't accept that, so it's better if I focus on my own life. Both of them dated other people, but none of them stuck, although I did get a half-brother out of it. Apparently, last year they reconnected and started dating each other. They didn't tell me, which is fair, but they asked to talk to me together while I was visiting for my great-grandmother's birthday and announced that they were getting remarried. It was clear that they expected me to be thrilled and for this to fix things altogether, and all I could think of is that they made my teenage years so hard just so they could turn around and be like, oops, we're getting back together again, sorry about that. I congratulated them, but told them not to expect things to change very much. Ever since then, my mom has been trying to involve me in the wedding planning process, and she wants me to be a bridesmaid, but I said no. They even asked me to give a speech, but I said no again. At a certain point, I decided that I really don't want to go, so I told them that last week, and now they're both very upset and really want me to be there because they want this to be about the family coming back together. Other relatives have contacted me to talk to me about it, and they've all given me mixed opinions, but also a lot of them are saying that I need to be the bigger person and give it a chance. I just don't want to go and be thinking about how all that turmoil was for nothing while everybody else is so happy. I do not want them to interpret my attendance as consent to just pretending that none of it happened, but I know that a lot of people would love to have their parents back together. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I'm very frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all, because honestly, what you went through is very real. You had a tumultuous childhood because of these people, and they literally made your life a living nightmare because they couldn't sort their problems out. And now when you're 23, they're trying to be like, okay, time to bring the family back together that we ruined, and they seriously expect you to be okay with it all of a sudden? Like, how did they think that was going to go? They haven't even apologized to you or even tried to like make things up to you in some kind of way. Instead, they're just like, oh yeah, we're gonna get back together, so you need to be a bridesmaid and make a speech. Like, if I was in your shoes and my family did that, there's no way I would ever attend that wedding. I would never want to be the bigger person or give it a chance, because where was this sentiment towards them when you were a teenager? Your whole life got torn apart because of these people. They literally ruined your teenage years, and they caused so many problems for you that they absolutely need to account for. So no, I don't think you're the jerk at all if you chose to stay away from this wedding, because this entire situation is incredibly toxic, and you do not deserve this in the slightest. An entitled old jerk follows me from job to job, demanding a refund on a product that he ordered that I literally could not give a refund for. Here's what happened. Okay, so this was a number of years ago, but it was still fascinating. fascinating. I was working as a parts man at a small outdoor power equipment shop. A gentleman in his mid-60s came in looking for a muffler for a brand of chainsaw that we were not a dealer of, and therefore we couldn't access any parts diagrams for the product. So I told him that he would be better off driving the next town over to the dealer that services that brand. Well, when I said that, this guy threw a temper tantrum. He said that he doesn't have time to drive 20 minutes and that there's no reason that I couldn't help him, stating that kids these days just don't know how to do it anymore. I calmed him down like I would a toddler, and I told him if he came back with a part number, I would broker a sale between the servicing dealer and him as a middleman, but that he would end up having to pay more as I would mark it up for the hassle. And astonishingly enough, he actually agreed to do this. He returns a few days later with a part number, and I price it out and I order it from the other dealer. I then explain to him that this is a non-returnable item, and since he provided the parts number, I do not want to hear anything about it if it comes in wrong. Well, wouldn't you know it, it does come in wrong. And this guy actually demands a refund, which I completely refuse. And after he gets irritated for a while, he eventually leaves. He then comes back every week or so to try and trick me into changing my mind, but it simply doesn't work. Unfortunately, the dealer I work for ended up closing and I lost my job. So I started working for that dealer 20 minutes away that I mentioned. Well, as you can probably guess, this man follows me to this new dealership, demanding that I give him a refund. I told him that this dealership didn't sell it to him, so we would not be issuing any kind of refund. But he just kept saying to me that I sold it to him, as if because I was a person physically handing it to him, that I was somehow solely responsible. He ended up calling the local news investigations desk to report me and my illegitimate business arrangements. I eventually told the producer that came in the story, and he said to me, "You wouldn't believe how many businesses I go to, and I finally get the truth because some old entitled jerk doesn't understand what a company's policy is, and that they agreed to it from the start." But even so, after so many years, I am honestly still blown away by the way this guy treated me. Yeah, the original poster just could not win in this situation. This old guy literally did not listen to a thing that he said, but also tried to hold this guy to a sale that he made literally at a job that doesn't exist anymore. How delusional and entitled can you possibly get? And then he follows him to the new store that he could have gone to in the first place if he wanted to avoid all this trouble from the get-go. This is all completely illogical and it could have been avoided. So I simply cannot understand where this old entitled jerk was coming from, because he himself is literally the reason that all of this fell apart. An entitled old Karen has an absolute meltdown when she discovers that we don't have the product that she was looking for in Home Depot. And I'm now completely blown away by this entitled Karen's awful behavior. Here's what happened. So I was working in the entry-level solar sales a little while ago. And yes, I was the one that would be bothering you about your electricity bill while you were buying paper towels, and I humbly apologize. While in said job, we also helped customers at our big box stores when we could, and we were also regularly asked for help. One lovely morning in December at Home Depot, a woman I would estimate to be in her mid-60s approaches me. She asked me if we carry fire glass, and I say that I don't know precisely what she's referring to, but that we usually carry tempered glass beads that go into fire pits. I then say that we are out of those, but the next Home Depot 10 minutes away says that they have multiple kinds in stock. Well, when I said that, she had an absolute meltdown. She says she needs a different kind of fire glass for an art project that she's doing, and then she starts actively screaming that I'm a moron for not knowing what she's looking for. Now, I need to say that I had a good relationship with several of the actual Home Depot workers, and I ended up calling over an assistant manager who was super nice and was a reliable guy, and I actually called him over specifically because I thought he would know how to defuse it. But in hindsight, I kind of feel bad for pushing it onto him. She continues to berate both of us for not carrying any kind of fire glass. This also occurs at a screaming level and includes several slurs directed at my coworker. This entitled Karen then proceeds to call the assistant manager some awful names who can't do anything right. At this point, security intervenes and this woman is shocked that she's escorted outside the premises. And as a Home Depot within the bounds of a major city, we get our share of people struggling mentally that sometimes act out in the store. But this was totally different. This was just an unhinged, old, entitled Karen in the wild. We all stood outside and watched as she screamed out by saying, "How dare you?" as well as my favorite of her saying, "Do you know who my husband is?" And you know what? I definitely don't. But I hope you find your fire glass literally anywhere else. I will personally never understand why anyone could ever act like this in public. Like seriously, is it that hard to have a level head and choose not to act like a psychopath at the drop of a hat? All she had to do was drive, 10 minutes to the other Home Depot and find the stuff that she needed? Why would you take this out on workers who literally are just trying to make a paycheck and do their job? They're not responsible for the fire glass being out. In fact, they have nothing to do do with it. So for her to shout and scream like that was completely unacceptable. But it really is satisfying to see that she got escorted off the premises because her behavior was completely out of line. An angry, entitled old jerk decides that he's gonna hassle me for taking too long in removing a hive of angry bees from his home. But despite the fact that I told him that he needs to leave the area for his safety, this guy was only concerned about how much I was charging him for my job, refusing to take my safety precautions seriously. Here's what happened. Okay, this just happened and I'm honestly still blown away. For starters, I'm a bee remover and a bee relocator, and I keep the bees that I remove and have many hives, and I bill myself as an ethical bee remover. So I have this job at a residence, and the bees have been ignored long enough that it's now become a massive hive. I talked to the entitled old man that I was meeting with, and I let him know what to do as I set things up. We have a nice chat, and it all seems to be going very well. I get close to the bees, and I realize that they are very defensive. They're dive bombing and attacking, and I'm not even close to them yet. I then go through my safety process of blocking off a wide area with caution tape and signage. I talk to dog walking neighbors warning them to stay away, and I talk to both neighbors telling them to keep their kids and dogs inside. And this is all normal stuff, and it reduces my liability. After I clear space from my ladder, I go up and marker off the area needing to be cut open to expose the bees. Now, they are not having it and putting up a full nasty response. Now, I have measures that I use to capture them from the air, so I pull enough from the air and I move back to get my tools to cut the hive open. Well, I then turned around and I see the entitled old man of this story literally standing there with a shade hat as if that would ever help him with these bees. I tell him, "Sir, I need you out of the area. Get inside or at least outside the caution tape." He then says to me, "For what? You're not even doing anything yet. You haven't done a single thing." At this point, he's a little upset, so I remind him that these are dangerous bees and I need everyone out of the area. Since I charge hourly and I'm not cheap, even though he is, he thinks that this is a good time to come out and complain about how long it takes to get set up. But here's the thing, I was never going to charge him more than what I estimated, but he's only concerned about the bottom line. Meanwhile, I'm concerned about getting sued if this guy catches a full face of stinging insects. After some back and forth about how dangerous this hive is, and how I'm making sure nobody walks into my perimeter, despite this moron standing in the middle of it, I just straight up quit. I tell him that I'm not doing it, I don't need to be exposed to liability, all because this guy is dumb enough to stand within my perimeter. I start packing up quickly because I'm pissed as bees chase me around in my suit, with the owner's son coming out to try and salvage it. I told him that I don't need a non-expert critiquing what my process is, and that I'm leaving right now. Have fun dealing with your angry bees. I tell them whoever you get to come out here to deal with it, please let them know how dangerous I said these bees really are. He asked me if they owe me anything, and I just said no. I am not accepting anything from them because I don't want to be on the hook somehow if these bees go bananas on somebody. The thing is, as soon as very defensive bees feel vibrations from power tools, they go absolutely crazy, and it is very slow going getting them out of the air. You cut a bit of the hive, you process it, and then you spend 10 minutes sucking mean bees out of the air to keep the defensive cloud as small as possible. And this is the only way to keep people safe. This entitled old jerk shut down the one bee remover around that can deal with bees this defensive and still keep the public from getting stung, including this old entitled jerk. So to that old jerk, I hope you enjoy your angry hive of bees, because I believe that you definitely deserve it. Wow, who in their right mind would have bees literally outside their home and then hassle the guy that's going to be removing said bees and be like, "Wow, you're taking too long. You haven't even done anything yet. What are you waiting for?" It's like, dude, what are you talking about? Do you want these bees removed or not? Now is not the time to get weird about this and be like, "Wow, this is taking so long. I can't believe you." So you know what? I honestly don't blame you for quitting that job, because that guy absolutely sounded like a liability. I mean, he was standing right next to this angry hive of bees and actually hassling you without any protective equipment on his body. Like, he could have gotten seriously hurt or worse, and that's honestly not something that you deserve to be liable for in the slightest. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for moving out of my mom's house and into my dad's house after my mom has made it very clear that she favors my stepsister over me? Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old male and I moved in with my dad 5 months ago. My parents always shared custody of me, and they broke up while my mom was pregnant with me, but I made the decision to move in with my dad permanently. Now, I did this for many reasons, but for starters, I like my dad's house better. He's around more, and it honestly feels like I'm home when I'm with him. Also, I was kicked out of my bedroom at my mom's place
place because her husband's daughter moved in with her boyfriend because they were expecting a baby, so I got moved into the office on a couch. And then the boyfriend broke my school laptop because he used the office to work from, and his reaction, as well as my mom's stepdaughter's reaction, was that I was a whiny brat for thinking that he should replace it. They also tossed out stuff that was in my old room still because mom told me stuff wouldn't fit in the office with me. I was also expected to help take care of my mom's stepdaughter, who is literally a total stranger to me. And to top it all off, my mom's husband is kind of a jerk and was way worse after his daughter moved in. My decision to move out was controversial with mom. She was upset and angry at first, and then the upset faded and her anger kept. I was asked a million questions, and I was called spoiled when I explained my reasoning, especially at the loss of my room. I was told that she would be living there, and I was only there part-time. So to them, it made no sense to put all of them and a baby in the office. My mom has wanted me to go to her house and see her, but I've just not done it, and it's been months since I went to her house. Her stepdaughter's baby was born too, and a party was thrown afterwards, but I didn't even go even though my mom invited me. She called me after the party and asked where I'd been, and I told her that I was out with my friends. She told me that we had a new baby in the family, but I told her that the baby isn't my family any more than her stepdaughter is. I told her that I miss nothing, and I wasn't going to be part of that. She told me I am, whether I like it or not, and then she told me that she misses me and wants me over for dinner some nights at least, but I just told her no. She then told me that I should be grateful to have her, and that one day I will regret this. So seriously, am I the jerk in this situation? Because at this point, I'm very frustrated and I just don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, I don't think you're the jerk, because it sounds like your mom made a very clear choice of your stepsister over you, and she made this choice over and over again. She's literally pushed you to the side in an office space and basically said that because you don't live there full time, you don't deserve to have a room of your own. But it's like, how in the world is that fair for you in the slightest? You're already split between two homes. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing and moved in with my dad. At least there you feel like you're at an actual home, because right now it seems like your mom's treating you like an object and she moves you around whenever it's inconvenient to have you in her way. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. I don't blame you in the slightest for choosing to go with your dad, and if I was in your shoes, I would have done the exact same thing. Am I overreacting after my husband gave out his number to a woman who was blatantly hitting on him? Because right now I am very frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. To start things out, my husband and I have been married for 3 years and moved to a new community a few months ago. We have recently started working out to become fitter and healthier, and both of us have lost some weight. My husband was bullied a lot as a kid for not being good looking and has some very deep insecurities related to his looks. I am also an attractive woman, and all his friends told him that I'm out of his league when we started dating. I regularly reassure him that I find him very attractive. He also doesn't like wearing jewelry, not even his wedding ring. Now, I've known this since we met and never really cared if that's his preference. The other day, he had an errand to run and went to take the electric vehicle out of the charging spot. He then noticed a woman across the parking lot checking him out for a minute or two. She then walked over to him and said, "Oh, is this your car? I was just wondering." She then asked him for his name, introduced herself, told him that she recently bought the same electric vehicle, and then asked him for his number in case she needs help with anything. And much to my surprise, he actually gave it to her. Now, I wasn't there during this interaction. He called me right after very excitedly and told me that someone just hit on him. Now, I was very excited for him too, and I was teasing him about being hot stuff until he told me that he gave her his number. When he heard the change in my tone, he said he didn't realize that she was hitting on him until after he gave her his number, and he thought that maybe she was actually asking for it because she might need some help later on. To be fair, he is a helpful person and will even offer help to strangers if he sees them struggling and he has the ability to help them. But he's also someone who doesn't like to hand out his number to random people, even while signing up for things, let alone some random person who he's spoken 2 sentences with. I find it hard to believe that he registered her checking him out from across the parking lot, that she walked over for no reason, struck up a conversation for no reason, and asked for his number very quickly out of nowhere, but didn't realize that she's hitting on him until after giving it to her. I think this alone wouldn't bother me so much, but something he said during our last fight has also made me question things. For context, during our entire relationship and marriage, he has assured me, mostly during and after fights, that he loves me and that he can't live without me, and he will never let go unless I want to leave him. We had a stupid fight last week about chores, and he said that this is not working out. I then asked him to clarify what he meant and what this is. Well, he wouldn't clarify. He just repeated the same thing and implied that he meant the marriage. We talked out the fight, and when when I asked him again afterwards, he apologized for saying that and said that he was talking about the chores arrangement and not the marriage, and that he didn't realize that's what I thought. I asked him if it wasn't clear to him that's what I thought he was referring to, especially based on me asking him that point blank. He then admitted that he knew, and that he knew that's what I would think, and that he was sorry for making me think that and for feeling that way. He then felt distressed that I didn't believe him and tried to assure me again that he loves me and was never letting me go unless I want to leave. Now, maybe I'm really overreacting and connecting unrelated things, but I'm wondering if until now he felt like I'm a catch and he'd be a fool to let me go. But now that he's getting fitter and someone else has shown interest in him, he's curious to see if it can go further. The girl texted him and he showed it to me, but hadn't replied then or in front of me. And it's not like I don't get hit on even with my wedding ring on, but I've always shut it down immediately out of respect for him. It's possible he's wondering if the grass is greener on the other side. I could bet good money that no other woman has put up with even 10% of the things that I put up with from him, but that doesn't mean I want him to sit idle and be cheated on, despite suspecting that's the direction things are going in. To be clear, I don't think he's going to sleep with the girl tomorrow, but it's not the implausible to think that he might see some flirting as innocuous until it develops into something more, especially as someone who doesn't see anything wrong with certain things until I ask him how he'd feel about me doing the same thing to him. So am I overreacting here, or am I actually onto discovering something really bad? What should I do? Okay, I can definitely see where the original poster's coming from, and I can really see where they would be frustrated. Your boyfriend's not an idiot, he's 32 years old, and he really should not have given out his number to that lady who was very clearly hitting on him. Like, that really was a stupid decision on his part, and I don't blame you for getting upset. But when it comes to you saying, oh yeah, there might be something else going on, or this could lead to some kind of cheating scenario of some kind, I personally think that would be taking it way too far. Like, that's all hypothetical situations that are just being made up in your head, and that's not serving anybody in the slightest. So yes, absolutely be upset that he gave his number out, and that he didn't recognize that she was blatantly hitting on him. And if he hasn't done it already, I would really be like, hey, you need to delete that number and block that lady, because otherwise that's only going to continue problems between the two of you. Am I the jerk for walking away from my father-in-law's wife after she started speaking negatively about my wife during my sister-in-law's wedding? Here's what happened. So my wife's younger sister got married 3 weeks ago. For the wedding, my wife filled the role that should have been filled by their mom, but she passed away when my wife was a teenager and her siblings were younger, with my wife eventually stepping up as the family mom. It ruined her relationship with her dad in the process because she had to mother him as well and had to take care of the family. She wanted him to be a better dad than that, but he was not capable at the time. To this day, things are very strained, and my wife's siblings lived with her for a period of time after she left as well. There is some conflict about this because after my wife turned 18 years old and moved out, her dad got remarried. There has always been a tension between my wife and my father-in-law's wife over the role my wife plays and the roles my father-in-law's wife wanted to play. My wife's younger siblings did not end up looking to my father-in-law's wife as a maternal figure and instead continued looking to my wife. And this is something we all know bothers my father-in-law's wife, at least to some degree. And this is why my sister-in-law's decision to have my wife fill the role on her wedding day brought forth some comments from my father-in-law's wife. It was more about the tradition they do in their family, which may or may not be related to a cultural thing in their mom's family, but their family always has the bride spend the night before and right up until the wedding with her mom. They don't leave each other's sides, and they help each other get ready together. And my wife did this with her sister. My father-in-law's wife wanted to be part of this, and she was upset previously when my wife didn't invite her to do it for our wedding. But it was a bigger deal for my sister-in-law because they lived together for 6 to 7 years. My father-in-law's wife found me during an in-between moment, and she told me that my wife must be so happy that she got to keep her out of yet another one of the weddings, and how smug my wife must be that she wasn't thought of enough to be invited in alongside the two sisters, and was basically a +1 and nothing more. I told her I did not appreciate her talking about my wife in that way, and she started to make another comment, so I walked away from her without saying another word. She stewed on that for the rest of the wedding, and days later brought it up to my in-laws and demanded an apology from me. Well, my wife stepped in and told her that I did not owe her an apology for walking away in the way in which I did. So am I the jerk for walking away when my father-in-law's wife started to badmouth my wife? What should I do? No, you are not the jerk, but honestly, if I was in your shoes, I definitely would have said a lot more to her. It's almost like she thought she could go to you as some kind of like confidential conversation and really express how she actually feels about your wife and what's happening at this wedding, as if you were going to keep it a secret or something like that. And that's honestly insane in my opinion, and you definitely do not deserve that. Like, you two are married after all. In what universe would she ever assume that you're not going to talk to her about this, or even begin to take her side in the slightest? But on the other side of that, I totally understand why you walked away, and why you didn't choose to stay in the conversation and make some kind of remark. This is your wife's extended family, and it does seem like your father-in-law's wife almost thrives on drama, so I can understand not wanting to fuel that drama any further than it needs to be. So no, you did the right thing by walking away, because this lady obviously just wanted to cause problems, and that is not your fault in the slightest.
My boss wanted to take away the only reason that I stayed at the company, so I decided to get some revenge in a way that would really set me up for a better job in the future. Here's what happened. So I work in an industry that I loathe. I prefer helping people one-on-one to improve their lives however I can, but life brought me to a corporate nightmare full of negativity, an overly ambitious hipster CEO, enough money for swag but not enough money to hire enough people for each department, so everyone suffers with stupid swag that nobody cares about, and the turnover rate is absolutely wild. I work in an essential, often overlooked section of the company, and here we handle massive volumes of clients who choose our company or leave. And I'm being vague on purpose, but trust me, this is a national company. We handle legal contracts, keeping new clients happy before we send them to their new team, and a million other tiny jobs that need to be done precisely, or it will ruin other departments and we could lose tons of money. Anyways, all of that is to say that there is not one person in this company that knows every aspect of our specific role and how to keep everything afloat. Well, my team lead decided it was time to leave and pursue her dream career after nearly 6 years of perfecting this role, with 4 of those years being with me. And I was the second half of this team. I was very thorough, and I focused on procedure perfecting, and I was very anxious about making any type of mistake. So between the two of us, we were the backbone of the sector. We really were a dream team. So of course, when she left, she told all the bosses who praised the ground that she walked on that I should get the job. She knew full and well that I hated this place, but I was waiting for something perfect to come along. But she also knew that I'm the one who would hit the ground running. I didn't exactly want the job, but we would all end up suffering, and I would end up training without extra pay, so I reluctantly took it. Now, let me tell you, the sheer amount of stress of cross-training for 2 weeks for this position, while already doing my full duties, which is an extremely stressful job in and of itself, and picking up the slack for both of us while she tied up loose ends, with me creating far more detailed procedures prior to her leaving, already made me so stressed out that I was having chest pains, I was breaking down, and I wanted to quit. Now, this being the awful company with horrible leadership that it is, I didn't even get my contract until several weeks after I accepted the job and I discussed the terms, and they still haven't backfilled my position, so I am still suffering a few months after I started training. No increased pay for the training and extra work that I had to endure, and they chose the start date after the training was done. I have been losing hair, I've been breaking out, I'm having nightmares and bursting into tears, and I even had to find a therapist because I've been pushing myself to be the best that I can while also being set up for failure and having zero support. And I care about a job well done, but I am just failing no matter how many extra hours I put in on the evenings and the weekends. My mental health is going down the drain. So this is where I decided to maliciously comply. I started work at 7:30 a.m. for 4 years, and this helped a lot with my work-life balance because I am a single mom and I can be home a bit earlier to take care of them. We also have the option to opt into working an extra 25 minutes each day so that we get a half day every second Friday. Some people don't care about it, but I found this extremely useful, especially for doctor's appointments and to use only a half day vacation for a full day off. This meant that I worked from 7:30 a.m. until 4:25 p.m. Now, these two things were the reason that I stuck around this long. These kept me sane and allowed me to be there for my kids as much as I could, as well as still being there fully mentally for them. Well, I was told that if I decide to become a team leader, I have to start at 8:30 in the morning and end at 5 o'clock p.m. I asked if that could be modified at all, and the answer was no. And when I heard that, I was really upset. I'm thinking that I'm already taking on far more stress, and now I have less time with my children too, and the kids see me suffering as much as I try to hide it. I am then told that I am no longer getting a second Friday as a half day either, so no more working the extra 25 minutes a day. Their reasoning was that they needed me here during normal business hours, which literally just doesn't make any sense. For a company who needs me to keep this business going, no one was budging on this, and as someone who already hates this place and feels that no one cares about my mental health and how I have even been injured for this company, I just shut down completely. So I logged into the system to book days off every second Friday, and I asked my old team lead to accept them right before she left, and and she said that she would gladly do it. So I now have every second Friday off. I don't work the extra 25 minutes a day. I get paid way more, and I'm using my title to find a way better job. So basically, I have less work for more money while I hand in my resumes to somebody who might be hiring. And whenever we have a meeting where the boss would ask if they should be aware of any time off, I just smile and remind them that I have the usual every second Friday off as a half day, and they just nod their heads. And I really hope I can find a better job than this sooner than later. Yeah, your job really sucks. These people have absolutely no idea who they're losing, because it sounds like you could literally bring this place to a complete standstill if you wanted to. And I also cannot stand jobs who are like, oh yeah, we work together, we're a family, and then they refuse to hire anybody to help you out, or at least cross-train literally anybody so that work can get done in a reasonable time frame. That just drives me crazy, and it only causes more people to quit on the spot. So you know what? Good for you for taking that team lead, as well as getting those Fridays off. And hopefully you can find a better job, because this place sounds like it absolutely sucks.
When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.